The school bully grabbed my class queen girlfriend right in front of everyone, but this time, I kept my hands in my pockets. In my past life, those exact hands broke Tyler Hayes' jaw for Madison Cole, destroying my entire future with a disciplinary mark right before the SAT, the most crucial exam of my life. So when Madison screamed my name like I was still her personal bodyguard, I just smiled, turned right around, and walked away. The room froze. Tyler Hayes still had his hand clamped on Madison's wrist. He was tall, athletic, and wore that annoying rich kid smirk that claimed every hallway in Westbridge High belonged to his family, which was pretty close to the truth. His father, Dean Hayes, handled school discipline, and Tyler had lived under that shield so long he honestly thought rules were just suggestions. Madison stumbled back, her face red and eyes already welling with tears. She had the perfect timing, the angle, and that victim tremble ready before anyone even realized what happened. In my past life, that exact look had completely shut down my brain. I had rushed across the room before anyone could stop me. Tyler laughed. I swung, he crashed down, and the classroom erupted. For maybe 10 seconds, I actually felt like a hero. Then the teachers arrived. Madison cried, saying she never asked me to fight. Tyler's friends claimed I was just jealous. Miss Morrison, our homeroom teacher, lectured me that senior year was far too critical for emotional outbursts. Dean Hayes showed up looking righteously disappointed, completely ignoring that his son started everything. I wrote the confession, apologized to everyone, and accepted the public humiliation. That permanent black mark followed me right into the crucial months leading up to the SAT, making me lose out on massive opportunities. My mind was totally shattered, and the exam meant to save my life became a brutal lesson in how expensive one stupid punch can be. But the funniest part happened after graduation. Madison Cole, the very girl I ruined my life to protect, began dating Tyler Hayes. And then, she married him. So yes, waking up back in this classroom to see the exact same nightmare play out, I did not feel heroic. I just felt awake. Logan, Madison screamed after me. My classmates stared as if my refusal to play the hero was an actual crime. Someone in the back whispered, "Is he seriously just leaving?" Tyler's mouth twitched. He looked disappointed. That was the very first victory of my new life. The bully set his trap, but the target just looked at it, yawned, and walked away. I almost reached the hallway before Madison caught up, grabbing my sleeve and crying out, "Logan, what is wrong with you?" Her voice was pitched just loud enough for everyone to hear. She cried that I saw what he did to her. I looked down at her hand. In my past life, I would have only heard her pain. Now, all I heard was a script. Stand here, get mad, throw a punch, take the fall. I saw it, I said. Her eyes widened, demanding to know why I left. Because my legs work. A few kids crowding the door gasped. One guy let out a snicker, quickly choking it back the moment Madison flashed her tearful eyes his way. She dragged me further down the hallway, dropping her voice. "Are you mad at me? Is that it? I know Tyler was terrible, but if you walk away, everyone will think you are a coward." You can clearly see her real priority here. Reputation. Everyone? I asked, as she bit her lip, muttering that I was her boyfriend. That word used to mean everything to me. In my past life, I survived on absolute crumbs. A passing smile, a late-night text, a whisper that I understood her better than anyone else. Just enough sweet poison to keep a fool running straight into the flames. Slipped my arm away. "Funny," I said. "When trouble comes, I am the boyfriend. But when the principal asks who started it, I am just a violent thug." Her face went completely pale as she whispered that it was not fair. "You are right. Fairness died the second Tyler touched you, yet somehow I am still the target everyone is waiting to destroy." Madison blinked, tears welling up right on cue. She was genuinely talented. Seriously, if crying was a college major, she would have a full ride to Harvard. She sobbed that she did not ask him to do that. "I know," I replied. Relief crossed her face until I added that I did not ask to be her shield. Her hand froze. Behind us, Tyler leaned against the doorframe looking incredibly smug. "Wow," he drawled, calling me a completely useless boyfriend right in front of her. The old Logan would have snapped. The current me just looked over and smiled, telling him that if he desperately needs attention, raising his hand in class is completely free. A few onlookers choked on their laughs. Tyler's face turned incredibly dark. Madison actually stopped crying for a brief second, which told me everything I ever needed to know. Before Tyler could snap back, Mr. Morrison's voice boomed down the corridor, ordering the three of us to the office immediately. And just like that, the school machine wakes up. Inside the office, it is the same heavy air of chalk, old tea, and absolute adult authority. Mr. Morrison sat behind his massive desk with his fingers steepled. Madison kept her eyes glued to the floor, while Tyler leaned against the window looking completely bored. I stood right in the center, knowing they had already decided I was guilty. Mr. Morrison sighed, telling me senior year is crucial, and asking why a straight-A student is suddenly starting trouble. Honestly, the speed was impressive. Skipping the entire investigation to jump straight into disappointing lecturing. Teacher, I asked calmly, what trouble did I even cause? Mr. Morrison scowled, telling me not to play word games, claiming Tyler said I provoked him, while Madison called it a misunderstanding. The whole class saw you arguing, he said. True, but they also saw Tyler grab Madison. Tyler scoffed, claiming it was just a joke. Great, I replied. Then I am laughing on the inside. Mr. Morrison slammed his hand on the desk. Not enough to actually scare us, just enough to show who was in charge. Enough, Logan, he snapped. Even if Tyler stepped out of line, your toxic attitude afterward was unacceptable. You humiliated classmates, threw around sarcasm, and disrupted our entire class order. So Tyler grabs a girl, Madison drags me in, yet my attitude is the ultimate crisis. Madison finally looked up at me. Logan, why are you being like this? She whimpered, claiming she never dragged me into anything. I just stared at her. The room went silent as my phone weighed heavily in my pocket. I still had the exact text she sent me before first period, crying that Tyler was bothering her again, begging me to stay close because she was so terrified. In my past life, I kept it hidden. I foolishly believed protecting her meant destroying all the proof myself. And that's how a guy trains himself to be a doormat and calls it love. Mr. Morrison opens a drawer, pulls out a blank form, and outlines his little plan. You will write a sincere, 1,500-word self-reflection. Apologize to Tyler and Madison for making a scene. Do that with a good attitude, and maybe I won't make this a massive issue. The universe just gift-wrapped my first victory. Same trap, same room, but they are dealing with a totally different idiot now. No, I say. Morrison stares. He asks what I said, so I repeat it. No, I'm not writing it. Tyler suddenly perks up, highly interested. Look at Madison's face shifting in real time. First panic, then anger, and finally that soft, fake pleading look she always uses when she wants someone else to foot her bill. She quickly whispers to stop being stubborn and just write it. It is senior year, she warns. But that is exactly why I refuse. Morrison's voice turns cold. He asks if I truly understand the consequences of defying a teacher. I understand them better than anyone here, I tell him, my voice turning incredibly flat. Suddenly, the old exam hall flashes behind my eyes. My shaking hand, the empty test sheet, it all comes back. I remember my mother's exhausted smile, pretending my terrible score didn't shatter her heart. The humor completely dies in my throat. Of course, Morrison doesn't even notice. Power-tripping adults only care about compliance, not the human side. He snaps that, since I refuse to cooperate, he is calling my parent. Madison goes totally pale at that. Now this is getting interesting. Morrison grabs the office phone, looks up my mom, and as it rings, Madison takes a step closer. She whispers, asking why I make things worse. Worse for who, I ask. She just gapes, silent. Absolutely beautiful. My mother arrives 20 minutes later, still wearing her comfortable house cardigan because she rushed out so fast. Her face is incredibly tight with worry, and that genuinely hurts. Look, I can easily laugh at Tyler, Madison, and even Morrison playing the role of the unbiased judge. But I can't laugh at my mom walking in here thinking her son is some troublemaker fighting over a girl. Pulling me aside, she softly asks me to tell her exactly what happened. Morrison interrupts, saying the situation is already completely clear. But my mother shuts him down, demanding he let her son speak. The entire office goes dead silent. She isn't even loud. And that quiet tone is why it works. I pull out my phone, open the chat, and hand it to her. Madison messaged me before class, saying Tyler was bothering her. She told me she was scared. I stopped myself from saying more. I genuinely thought she needed help. But the moment things got messy, she acted like I just forced myself in. My mother reads the text twice, her grip tightening around my screen. She turns directly to the girl standing by the desk and addresses Madison Cole by her full name. She asks if she sent this. Madison's eyes instantly well up as she claims she was scared and didn't mean for me to misunderstand. Misunderstand? Really? My mother's voice sharpens, pointing out how she begged for help but let me take the fall. Tyler snorts, calling it just a text and saying nobody told me to play boyfriend. I eye him, saying nobody told him to be a handsy creep either. Morrison instantly snaps my name. My mother turns to the teacher. My son has literal proof that Madison begged him for help, and Tyler admitted to touching her. Why is my son the only one facing punishment here? For once, Morrison looks genuinely uncomfortable, though it only lasts for about 2 seconds before he nervously adjusts his glasses and speaks to my mother. He stammers that Madison shouldn't have sent a vague text, and Tyler's joke was wrong. He promises to handle them privately. But putting the actual facts aside, he claims my attitude is the real problem. Morrison finally muttered his biased logic out loud. It's so ridiculously stupid, it needs a frame. I laugh quietly, just enough for him to hear. Morrison's face falls as he asks what is funny. I tell him I'm just incredibly impressed. If we are completely throwing out facts, can I be the emperor? If reality is on vacation, I deserve a cool title. My mom shoots me a sharp warning look to shut my mouth. Seeing Morrison's face turn a violent shade of purple honestly heals a small part of my soul. He demands to know if I'm mocking him. No, I respond. I'm just wondering why facts are only optional when they happen to clear my name. Before he can blow up, the door swings open, and right on cue, Dean Hayes steps inside with a heavy folder and that exact same smug jawline. If you ever needed proof that school politics are hereditary, this is it. He ignores his son entirely and locks his eyes on me. He says my full name, claiming he heard I refused my punishment and insulted my homeroom teacher. I look between them. Fast news service. His eyes turn completely icy, muttering that this disrespectful attitude is the core issue. He lectures me that while my grades are good, they aren't everything. He claims a student who disrespects authority can't stay at Westbridge High and poison the school. My mother steps right in, pointing out that her son has proof Madison begged for help, and his own boy was actively involved in this. The dean gives his son a brief, protective glance to make sure his golden boy isn't damaged. Then he flatly states Tyler will be educated at home. Tyler looks down, hiding a smug smirk. My mom spots it and her expression shifts. Good, the painful truth is finally becoming clear. The dean continues his lecture, stating the real issue is my refusal to accept discipline. He accuses me of disrupting class, arguing with peers, talking back, and mocking their official process. He tells my mother that while parents protect their kids, senior year has zero room for this level of instability. Instability, I repeat to myself. That word always followed me in my past life. Unstable, dramatic, impulsive. Yet they never call Tyler a protected brat, or Madison a dirty liar. The bad labels always stick to the kid whose dad isn't a dean. Hayes drops the folder on the desk and lays out my options. I either write a sincere reflection, apologize to Morrison and the Golden Children, and take a black mark, or I pack my bags and leave Westbridge High. They claim they cannot teach a defiant student. My mother goes completely still. It is the exact same wall from my past, just painted with nicer words. In my previous life, this was the exact moment I surrendered. I told myself writing one fake apology was cheaper than getting expelled and crushing my parents' dreams. A quick lie on paper seemed cheaper than fighting the system. But that one lie became a permanent record, and that record ruined my entire future. That single mistake cost me years of waking up with absolute dread. I stared back at Madison. Tears kept rolling down her face, but she glared at me with something far sharper than mere panic. She wanted me trapped, forcing me into that old routine because it always worked out perfectly for her. Then I looked over at Tyler. He looked safe enough to be bored. Mr. Morrison was just waiting for me to bow my head in shame. Finally, I looked at my mother. Her anger was fading beneath pure worry. My mother was stressing over my grades, college prospects, the SAT, and the school reputation. All those sweet words adults use to make kids swallow a bitter pill and call it medicine. I gave her a small smile, telling her not to worry. I whispered back, "Mom, I am absolutely not writing some fake confession." Dean Hayes sneered, asking if I understood the consequences. I told him I did. If Westbridge High expects me to pretend Tyler did nothing, Madison stayed quiet, and Morrison saw nothing. I am done here. Madison flinched. Before anyone could stop me, I dropped the bomb. I am transferring. The entire office fell dead silent. Even Tyler's bored face showed a crack of surprise. Dean Hayes stared like students weren't supposed to know exits existed. Mr. Morrison recovered first, warning me that acting impulsively right before the crucial SAT would destroy my entire future. I just smirked. In my past life, staying here already ruined me. I told him my future survived literal death, so it can handle a simple transfer. My mom gasped. Madison turned incredibly pale. Dean Hayes just sneered, clearly thinking I was being overdramatic. Whatever, let him think that. I snatched my phone back from my mother's hand and slipped it away. The recording was safe. My conscience was clear, even though Tyler was still standing tall. Madison Cole was still a liar, and Westbridge High was still a corrupt mess. But I had changed. I bowed respectfully to my mother, ignoring the faculty, telling my mom we should head home and ask about Brookfield High tomorrow. For the first time since resetting this cursed day, my path forward actually felt possible. Word of my transfer reached homeroom 204 long before I did. By the time Morrison opened the classroom door, everyone had decided I was the bad guy in this drama. They completely ignored Tyler, who actually started the fight. They ignored Madison's fake tears too. Somehow, the blame landed squarely on me. Seriously, don't you just love how mob mentality works? I had barely been reborn for a single day, one single day, and already, everyone was blaming me for not carrying this group project. Morrison stood at the lectern, absolutely furious. My mother stood right beside me, clutching her bag with both hands, trying her best to appear calm for my sake. Dean Hayes had rushed off to cook up some story about his angel son being innocent. He wanted me painted as a dangerous troublemaker. Standing before us, Mr. Morrison announced that because I refused to apologize, things had now become incredibly serious. His teacher voice was soft but sharp, instantly turning 28 classmates into a literal jury. Over at her desk, Madison lowered her head, sporting fresh tears. If crying was an elective, she would be varsity. Someone near the window muttered for me to just apologize, while another complained about being dragged into my mess. My desk mate, Ryan Brooks, leaned back in total disbelief. He stared at me like he was watching his cheat sheets get thrown into a roaring fire. He whispered, asking who he was supposed to copy physics from if I actually left. Gotta love that academic parasite loyalty. I set my bag down and joked that it was the most touching reason to stay. Ryan dramatically pressed a hand against his chest. He claimed he was speaking from the heart. The class snickered, which visibly annoyed Morrison way more than my actual silence did. He tapped the lectern hard. Morrison snapped at me to stand in the back since I refused to write a reflection essay. I looked over at Mrs. Miller. She looked back, still worried but no longer confused. She saw Madison's text and heard Morrison admit that the facts did not even matter. That changed something inside me. In my past life, every explanation I gave felt like it was instantly dragged through the dirt. This time, one person who actually mattered saw the truth before they could twist it. No more games. I grabbed my bag and refused. I already reflected. Found the problem. Morrison sneered, asking if the school was the issue. The room went completely silent. A truly beautiful, heavy silence. The kind you only get when someone finally says the quiet part out loud. Madison's head snapped up. Tyler was already gone, of course. Golden boys never stick around for the fallout. They always vanish when reality comes to collect the bill. Morrison pointed to the door, ordering me out. But my mother stepped up before I could answer. She asked what transfer paperwork we needed. Morrison visibly flinched. For all his big talk on discipline, he never expected my mom to actively help me escape. Power-tripping teachers expect parents to be scared and compliant. My mother demanding forms completely broke his brain. He quickly tried to sound fake patient. He claimed transferring now was too complicated with the SAT close by. He said I was just being emotional. I couldn't help but smile. I told him if he said for my own good, I would start charging him. Ryan choked on his laughter behind me, but Mom kept a straight face. She calmly demanded the paperwork once more. Morrison stared at her for 3 whole seconds, desperately trying to find a way to keep controlling us. Finally, he slammed a withdrawal packet onto the desk, snapping that we would need signatures from him, the main office, Dean Hayes, and Principal Bennett. He sneered that if I wanted to ruin my life, they wouldn't stop me. I simply replied, "Sounds good." I joked that blocking my self-destruction just ruined the aesthetic lighting. My mother quickly warned me to watch it because even righteous rebellion has its limits. Grabbing the forms, I waited. Morrison uncapped his pen for the first signature, but he hesitated, letting the tip hover above the paper. He whispered it was my last chance to apologize to Tyler and Madison so he could still sweep this under the rug. Madison let out a tiny whimper from her desk. It was this perfect, broken little sound. In my past life, that noise would have dragged me by the ribs like a fishhook. Back then, I would have apologized without even knowing my crime. But this time, I saw the trap. It was not romantic anymore. I told him I wanted a trade. Mr. Morrison narrowed his eyes. "What trade?" he asked. I said if he apologized to my mother for falsely accusing me, I might stay to win the physics Olympiad slot for homeroom 204. Miss Parker, the physics teacher, happened to walk in right during my last sentence. She froze by the door with papers under her arm, staring at my face, then at the form. For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked. That was the first honest face all day. And watch this, Miss Parker actually steps up. "Logan," she says, "you are transferring? But the Olympiad recommendation list is due." She cut herself off, probably realizing the class did not need another adult accidentally letting slip what kind of genius Westbridge High was about to lose. But Mr. Morrison heard her anyway. His grip tightened on the pen. I turned back. One simple apology was all I wanted. He could just say he ignored the facts, and it was embarrassing for him as an educator. I could even take a shorter version. The class murmured. Mr. Morrison signed the form so hard the paper dented, telling me to just go. He thought he was dismissing me, stamping my early exit. Instead, he just made my freedom official. I grabbed the paper, thanked him, and said I knew we could resolve this peacefully. Miss Parker followed us out to the hallway, trying to stop me with some logic. She warned me that transferring before exams is risky and told me to wait. Good advice, but terrible timing. I said if this was just anger, I would wait, but Morrison wanted me to sign a lie. The dean threatened my record to protect his son. If I stay, I am not learning from teachers. I am negotiating with people who rewrite reality to protect themselves. Miss Parker stared at the form, then toward the classroom. I said nothing else, but she already understood everything. Brookfield High has good teachers too, she said quietly, telling me to keep studying and not waste my talent to prove a point. That actually hurt. In my previous life, I had wasted so much time, sleep, and pride. I destroyed the trust that parents lose when schools make them doubt their kids. I nodded, saying I was leaving to stop wasting my life. My mother gripped her purse, and we headed to the main office for their final dramatic show. Dean Hayes sat there looking smug, while Principal Bennett read my transfer papers with absolute disgust, like he was looking at a dirty crack in his clean wall and blaming it for being there. Logan Miller. Bennett noted my grades were great and my record was clean before today. I repeated his words, calling it an educational phrase, while Dean Hayes tapped the paper. He claimed my attitude was the problem. But my attitude did not call Madison downstairs, start a fight with Tyler, or threaten my file when I refused to lie. The principal looked at my mother, warning her that a transfer would hurt my recommendations and support. The translation was pretty clear. You feel that tension, right? They were trying to scare my mother. So, I took a step forward to lay down my demands. I demanded that Morrison apologize to my mother, and the school clear my name in writing regarding Tyler and Madison. No disciplinary record. Only then would I discuss staying. The dean laughed, asking if I wanted an apology. I corrected him, demanding they apologize to my mother. That was when the smiles vanished. Bennett slammed the folder shut and told Dean Hayes to sign the application. Westbridge High just let me walk away. The school did not apologize or clear my name of the rumors. They just signed the papers fast enough to throw us out before the truth got messy. Finally, Dean Hayes put his signature down. Principal Bennett signed right after. I took the document and checked the names. The dean scoffed, asking if I thought they would cheat me. I told them I just knew they liked to ignore facts, so I was building healthy habits. Bennett looked absolutely miserable. As we walked out, Dean Hayes warned me that Brookfield High would not tolerate my temper. He said without their elite platform, I would fail. Pausing at the exit, I remembered how his threat would have terrified me. Now, he just sounded like Tyler wearing a cheap suit. I told the dean if his son had my temper, he would have taken responsibility by now. Then I walked out before my mother could scold me. A transfer usually takes a full day. It took us 1 hour because the school suddenly wanted to be efficient. Nothing moves faster than a school getting rid of its own mistakes. By lunch, everyone knew I was leaving. As I packed my desk, they all stared while pretending not to care. The classroom had this heavy, funeral vibe that students only make when real-life drama starts messing with their seating arrangements. Ryan stood by my desk holding a notebook, looking incredibly solemn as he told me he made something. I asked if it was a goodbye letter. He said no, it was just the last 3 physics problems from yesterday. He begged me for closure, saying I could not leave him with Morrison. My friend claimed there were laws. I asked him to name one. Friendship, he said, but that does not apply to copying. I laughed despite myself and grabbed his notebook, solving those 3 physics problems. Ryan hovered over my shoulder like I was drafting a will. Asking quietly, he wondered if I was actually going to Brookfield. I confirmed it, and he mentioned rumors about me getting kicked out. When he said Madison was crying, I joked about staying hydrated. He admitted I was pretty scary when I was this calm. My friend did not get what I meant, but I did. The old Logan was loud, easily manipulated, and blindly loyal. But things have changed. This new Logan was totally prepared. I tore out the pages and Ryan grabbed them like they were some sacred ancient text. Look, for what it is worth, I do not think you did anything wrong. That was basically Ryan's way of being emotional, efficient, reliant on homework, but completely sincere. Thanks, I replied. Ryan leaned in closer, whispering that if our school started acting weird, he would hit me up. Why? Because drama is his life and I am his best investment. Ryan grinned, calling it true friendship. I packed my books, but Madison stood up as I reached the door. The classroom went so silent it was actually embarrassing. Everyone wanted to watch the breakup drama go down. Logan, Madison called out, her voice trembling. She walked over, hands tightly squeezing her phone. Her eyes were puffy and red, But this time, I could clearly see the cold calculation hiding behind those tears. This girl desperately needed one final scene where she was the good guy, making whatever happened next entirely my fault because I rejected her sweet act. She stopped me just outside the classroom, asking if we could talk. Down the hall, Mrs. Miller waited, giving us space but keeping a protective eye on me. I appreciated my mom's support so much. Turning to Madison, I told her to talk. Her eyelashes fluttered as she apologized, claiming she never wanted things to get this big. Claiming she was terrified because Tyler was furious, she thought my help would fix everything. I asked if help meant taking the blame. She stuttered, glancing at 20 classmates who were totally failing to pretend they weren't eavesdropping. She whispered that she knew I cared. A beautiful, wrapped knife. Suddenly, the hallway vanished. I saw my past. Madison smiling next to Tyler at graduation. My parents looking completely exhausted after yet another school board meeting. My own bruised, useless hands flashed in my mind, clutching a shattered future. I had desperately wanted her to choose me, even if it meant throwing my life away. That memory was deeply humiliating, but highly useful. Pain makes an excellent highlighter. I told Madison straight up that she was never worried about me getting hurt, just about me losing my usefulness. She went pale, denying it, so I asked why she wanted me to apologize to Tyler. Her mouth opened and closed in silence. Perfect. Finally, a language she could actually speak honestly. Right then, I pulled out my phone. Watch this, he deletes her contact right in front of her face. Madison panics and begs him to stop, but he tells her it is already done. She pleaded to still be friends. I snapped that real friends do not make me bleed just to protect their reputation. She flinched, looking completely shocked. But then I pictured my mom's face in the principal's office. I whispered that if she kept choosing Tyler's lies over the truth, she would end up stuck with him, calling it fate. She stared at me as if I had put a curse on her. Honestly, maybe I did. Or maybe I was just reading the final chapter of a story I already survived. I turned around before she could cry her way into another courtroom. Behind me, Ryan whispered that it was brutal. I did not look back, telling him to write it down. It might be on the test. My last move before leaving was returning the borrowed classroom key to Mr. Morrison. He sat there pretending to grade papers without looking up. When he warned me I would regret this, I told him I probably would, but that is how I learn and improve. Morrison finally looked up, telling me Brookfield High won't make me a hero. I fired back that I don't need a school to define me. Even to me, that sounded pretty arrogant, but sometimes, arrogance is just confidence when spoken to people who want you kept small. My mother and I walked out the front gates together. She didn't ask if I was sure again. Once we got outside, she simply stopped and asked if Brookfield High would really accept a late transfer like me. I told her yes, because they have open spots and my grades are great. Plus, our old school signed my transfer papers so fast, it makes them look guilty. She sighed, calling it a handsome outline rather than a real plan. Seeing her worry, I immediately stopped joking around with her. I told her I knew I scared her today, and that transferring is a massive gamble, but staying in that toxic place would be far worse. If I sign their fake confession, every teacher there will know they can push me around. I can't focus on my SAT prep with their boots on my neck. She looked back at the gate, staying silent. Finally, she nodded, agreeing we should go. That was the exact second our old school lost for good. My mother chose my dignity over their precious reputation. Sorting the transfer paperwork took the whole afternoon. Brookfield High was definitely not glamorous. The buildings were worn down, the gates were peeling, and it lacked that pristine, elite high school look. I loved it instantly. Flawless-looking places were starting to make me incredibly anxious anyway. After dinner, I opened my laptop and logged onto the forum for Exit Pass. This online story had been my secret passion project for months. Pretty ridiculous to any teacher, a high schooler writing fiction right before his SAT, absolute criminal behavior, honestly. Clearly, my next move was joining a gang, but the online comments were totally real, and my brief hiatus notice got replies way faster than expected. One fan threatened to fail all their mock exams if I disappeared before the next update, while another joked that my homework must have kidnapped me. A third reader told me to keep things simple by just updating, eating, sleeping, and updating again. I stared at those words for a very long time. In my past life, I made every little thing so complicated. Drama, pride, anger. I treated every single insult like a massive fire, and every tear like an emergency. This time around, only the basics mattered. Do not fight Tyler, do not sign their lies, and absolutely never let Madison run my life again. Just study, write, protect my parents, and find Emma before the world ruins her. Under the hiatus post, I quickly typed that the author was transferring schools. Updates will resume once I survive the new seating chart. The comments section exploded instantly, and Ryan messaged me just 10 seconds later. He frantically asked if I was actually the famous author. Staring at the screen, I texted back that he was supposed to be admiring my brilliant sentence structure. Ryan texted to keep things quiet. He asked me to define quiet, so I said the opposite of you. He texted back that it was hurtful but accurate. Smiling, I closed my laptop. The next morning, my mom adjusted my collar at the front door like I was a 6-year-old kid heading to school with a lunchbox. I let her do it. Some moments of embarrassment are just love in disguise. Soon, my new homeroom teacher, Miss Anderson, met us right outside the office. She was sharp, quick, and completely skipped that dramatic sigh adults always make when a new kid arrives with massive rumors attached. After eyeing my record and glancing at my mother, she stared right at me. "Logan Miller, your last school reported classmate conflict. Generous phrasing," I replied. They left out quite a lot of details. Miss Anderson's lip twitched, while Mom glared with slightly less panic. "Real progress." Miss Anderson shut my folder and said my grades were solid but my conduct note was vague. She'll judge me by my actions here. I nearly clapped. Instead, I just nodded, calling it fair. She led me straight to the senior hallway. Classroom noise spilled into the hallway before we even reached the door. Same old high school vibe, wild gossip, exam panic, and someone laughing too loud at a bad joke. Miss Anderson touched the handle. "There is an open desk in the 3rd row," she said. "Start there." Looking through the door glass, I saw her. Emma Blake sat by the window, glasses low, writing in her notebook with the intense focus of someone trying to be completely invisible. In my past life, she was just a quiet name I noticed far too late, mocked by others as boring. But later, she proved to have way more talent and patience than the rest of the school. She never used me. Not once. Miss Anderson opened the door, and the class turned. Stepping into Brookfield High with my warm transfer papers, I asked the first useful question of my new life. "Teacher, can I sit right next to Emma Blake?" Miss Anderson looked at her seating chart, then back to the quiet girl by the window. Emma looked up, her eyes widening in pure shock behind her glasses. A sketchy transfer walks in, immediately claiming the seat beside her like some rare prize. Trust me, I was the opposite of subtle. The classroom went wild. Chairs creaked and pens stopped moving instantly. Kids near the back started whispering, "Does he know Emma? Maybe he transferred just for her?" Man, word travels fast. Brookfield gossip had faster reflexes than my old school discipline. Miss Anderson cleared her throat. "Logan, do you know Emma?" "I know of her," I replied. It sounded pretty suspicious because it absolutely was. I could hardly explain that in my past life, I totally ignored the only girl in school with real integrity. So, I am just correcting the universe's seating arrangement here. I knew when to edit myself. Miss Anderson studied my face. "Emma, is that seat free?" Emma glanced at the desk, looked at me, and stared back at her notebook. "Yes, teacher." Her voice was so quiet the entire room leaned in. Miss Anderson told me to sit, but demanded I introduce myself first. I stepped forward. The class already had me figured out before I even spoke. The sketchy transfer from Westbridge High with classmate issues. Rumors of fights, expulsions, maybe all of the above. Pure drama. I just gave them my most harmless smile and introduced myself as Logan Miller. My grades are average, my character is great, and I absolutely never fight. Dead silence for a second, then everyone lost it. The teacher pressed her lips together, fighting a smile. "Average grades? Yeah. Average compared to my future standards. And the never fighting part? Let's call that a personal growth goal." This time, even the teacher smiled. Never let a rumor dictate your posture. If they want shame, be shameless. If they expect violence, give them a friendly smile and make them wonder if you just hired someone else to do it. Miss Anderson pointed to Emma's row, telling me to sit down. "But Logan, jokes don't replace actual homework." "Understood," I said. "I'll just use them as extra credit." Everyone laughed as I walked over, and Emma quietly slid her books to make space. She was not being rude, just quietly making sure I had space without forcing me into an awkward first-day conversation. That small gesture spoke volumes. "Thanks, Miss Blake," I said softly as I sat down. "Classmates should show some respect." She looked down, her lips twitching slightly. Not quite a smile, more like she was thinking about letting herself smile. And since my past life taught me absolutely zero survival skills, just watch what I ask her next. "Miss Blake, do you have a boyfriend?" Her pen instantly froze. Suddenly, every desk around us went dead silent, eavesdropping on every single word. Emma bolted upright, clutching her notebook. "I need to ask the teacher about question 5 even though we hadn't opened the books." "Question 6 then," she muttered, escaping to the front before I could make it worse. Day 1, and I've already made my seatmate run away. Personal growth goal number 2, try to be less terrifying. Next period was self-study, which meant 40 seniors pretended to read while watching me breathe. The class rep, Owen Fisher, turned to pry first. Nope, I just told them Westbridge High couldn't handle my excellent character. Someone nearby choked on a laugh. Chloe Harper leaned forward. The class rep, social weather system, and in my past life, Madison's primary bridge into the local rumor mill. Logan Miller, right? I know Madison, Chloe said. The past was catching up before lunch. Annoying. My condolences, I replied. Chloe's eyebrows shot up while Emma's pen paused. Madison said you liked her, Chloe added. A historic first, indeed. Now, I am officially retired from unpaid bodyguard duties. Before she could dig deeper, Mason Cooper blocked the door. He had massive shoulders, looking like a basketball player with a serious grudge. Hey, new guy, he barked. Don't flirt with Chloe on your first day. Every school has a Mason, a walking warning label powered by raw insecurity. The key was waiting for proof. I am not flirting, I say. Mason stares, but I point to my notebook. I am just networking. The entire classroom erupts. Chloe laughs the loudest, sending Mason's blood pressure through the roof. Emma leans over, whispering that Mason might actually start a fight. The jokes stop right there. She is not trying to dominate the room, she is just warning me because she thinks I do not understand these people yet. I lower my voice. I will not strike first, I promise. She notes that is not very comforting, but I call it legally thoughtful. She presses her lips together, almost smiling, despite herself. Mason sits back down, still glaring. I can handle him just like I did Tyler. I will handle Mason without becoming another Tyler. Just then, Miss Anderson returns. She slams a stack of English papers onto the lectern. Since everyone is so fascinated by the new student, she announces a 20-minute reading test with zero talking. I absolutely love teachers like Miss Anderson. She sees a gossip fire and douses it with an exam. Chloe hands out the papers, smiling as she whispers that she will go easy when defeating me. Please do, I joke. While everyone else tries to make headlines, she happily exists as a quiet footnote with gorgeous handwriting. Thankfully, this little test is not hard at all. I have already lived through this school year once, so these grammar questions are familiar traps. I finish in 8 minutes, then spend 5 more pretending to struggle. Walking into a brand new school and immediately playing the genius answer key just lacks diplomacy. When the teacher collects our papers, Mason looks over. Done already? He sneers that Westbridge High must rely on guesswork, but I tell him that is only on sunny days. He warns me Brookfield is different because teachers here actually read evidence. Miss Anderson looks up, so I apologize, calling it supplemental material. She demands quiet. I shut up, and she grades our papers rapidly during the break. Chloe lingers near the teacher's desk, badly pretending to be indifferent. Nearby, Mason sharpens his pencil with pure hostility. Emma reviews her answers carefully. Miss Anderson announces Chloe has 2 wrong, and Emma has 3 wrong, praising her improvement. Then, she slowly picks up my paper. Her pen slows down. It is the heavy silence every student dreads. She calls my name, asking how many I think I missed. I reply, quite a few. Watch this. Miss Anderson holds up my paper, revealing I only missed 1. The entire class snaps their heads toward me, and Chloe freezes up. I act deeply regretful, even though I am loving every second. Anything less than perfect is a failure, I mock. The class goes wild as she puts down my paper. 98, she says, highest today. Just average for my future standards, I smirk. She warns me that one more word will send me to the hallway. Understood, I say. Emma studies my paper for a quiet second. You are actually good at English, she notes. It is not flattery, just a clean observation. I admit to being a little good. She notes I said average, so I joke about having a flexible relationship with humility. This time, she actually smiles properly. That smile hits me harder than my 98. I am human after all. By lunch, the rumors have upgraded already. I am no longer just the weak transfer student who fought over Madison Cole. Now, I am the guy who dismissed the drama, insulted Madison, annoyed Mason, and got a 98 while calling it a failure. Talk about a chaotic reputation. Emma's friend Grace slides over with her lunch, whispering that everyone is talking about me. Emma looks from me to her friend, noting that I am sitting right here. Grace says she knows, which is why she whispered, but I point out she is still pretty loud. Grace smiles, telling me to just pretend she did. Before things get peaceful, Chloe joins and asks if I read Exit Pass. My hand freezes. My web novel's name followed me here much faster than expected. Chloe mentions the author posted a hiatus notice last night, rumored to have transferred to another school. Several classmates turned to listen. Ryan, my pen name back at Westbridge High, had clearly not kept as low a profile as I originally hoped. Emma glances at me, asking if I read it at all. Grace leans in, adding that the entire school forum is losing their minds over this sudden hiatus. Mason complains the author sounds arrogant. I turn, defending it as a literary technique. Chloe's eyes instantly light up, asking if I really know him. Intimately, I say. This immediately silences the table. Emma blinks in shock. I realize a second too late that she takes my words way too literally. I clear my throat, clarifying that I just understand his habits. Grace giggles behind her hand. Emma stares down at her food, her ears turning quite pink. I note to be more careful, while Chloe smirks at my slip-up, begging me to ask him to update. I claim the author is recovering from classroom seat trauma. Chloe smiles knowing I am connected, but Mason scoffs that it sounds completely fake. I tell Mason his skepticism is highly valued. Just then, Miss Anderson passes by with her lunch tray, warning me that if I start a cult, she will split us up. Hand over heart, I claim I am promoting literature. She tells me to do it quietly. I agree, noticing Emma's shoulders shake. A silent laugh. That is way better than any forum review. Our afternoon Chinese class begins under Mr. Whitman. He is completely different from Miss Anderson, who looks like she can effortlessly organize chaos into perfect rows. This man looks like he survived years of reading horrible student essays, developing absolute patience to stay sane. He walks in holding a thermos, books, and the calm face of someone who could dismantle your entire essay with a whisper. Taking attendance, he calls out my name. I stand. He simply tells me to sit. He notes my file is strong, but my past Chinese scores are wildly inconsistent. He is right. In my previous life, my writing grades swung back and forth like a door in a massive storm. My work was either brilliant, dramatic, or looked like it was written by someone who used commas for emotional support. But this time, I have exit pass, a massive reader base, and months of practice transforming raw emotion into addictive hooks. Mr. Whitman starts with a classical reading before moving to structure. I manage to pay attention for 10 minutes until my phone suddenly buzzes in my pocket with a forum update. I really should have ignored the temptation, but I did not. Hiding my phone under the desk, I quickly wrote 3 lines for my online novel draft. Only 3 lines. A pretty small academic crime. Emma noticed instantly, throwing me a quick warning glance before looking away. Her eyes went wide with a silent warning, so I quickly slid the device under my notebook. Too late. Mr. Whitman stopped talking and called out my name. My stealth plan clearly had some pretty major flaws. Standing up slowly, I faced Mr. Whitman as he held out his open hand. I handed it over with the screen still unlocked. Honestly, locking it would have just looked more suspicious. Plus, my writing instincts have always been pretty terrible. He read the lines. His face changed, not angry, but curious. That was way worse. He looked up, asking if I wrote this. I owned up to it, admitting I wrote it during his class. Confession is best when you are caught red-handed. The class giggled, but Mr. Whitman stayed completely serious. He flipped the phone down before anyone else could pry. Step into the hallway, he ordered. I followed him out, and the heavy door shut behind us. Holding my phone with 2 fingers, he scrolled down until he found the draft folder. It was labeled Exit Pass. He looked up and asked if it was mine. I said yes. He wanted proof, so I took the phone and loaded my writer dashboard to show him. I showed him the drafts, comments, and history. His stern look softened into something resembling actual respect. He admitted my pacing was good, but called my ending shameless. I thanked him. Even when he joked that my grammar commits crimes, he handed it back, admitting that I actually have a lot of talent. Talent doesn't buy you freedom in my class, he warned. Standard serialized fiction won't guarantee a top score on actual academic exams. You already know where this is heading. Teachers have this uncanny ability to turn a compliment into extra homework. He explained there is a joint mock exam coming up with 4 schools, including Westbridge High and Brookfield High. If I can rank first in Chinese for Brookfield, I can write during free class moments. But if I fail, my phone gets locked up in his desk every single day. He asked if I was negotiating. I told him I was just measuring my cage. He agreed. Top score across 4 schools? That is a pretty tough bet, and failing in public always hurts twice as bad. But the risk was tied to my own skill. In my past life, letting emotion guide me always ruined my future. But this bet relied purely on my actual skills, not just useless pride. I accepted the terms, though I denied being overly confident. I was just trying to do simple, daily tasks repeatedly to succeed in the long run. He nodded, Simple, painful, educational. Now put your phone away, he ordered with a tiny quick smile. When we stepped back inside, the entire room tried to act normal and failed spectacularly. Chloe had already scribbled a note, sliding it to Grace, while Owen kept looking back. Mason stared at me like I had personally offended him. As I passed by Chloe's desk, she quickly slipped a folded piece of paper toward my hand. The paper read, "Exit Pass." I hid it under my book without a word. Mr. Whitman placed my device down and addressed the class. He announced that Logan Miller would not write during lectures anymore. I nodded, but then he added that I had accepted a major challenge. And now, get ready for this, he announces that I am aiming for the absolute top rank across all 4 schools on the mock exam. If he succeeds, he gets to write after finishing his regular school work. Failure means my phone gets confiscated. The room went silent, then Owen muttered about the schools while Chloe asked if I really agreed. Mason scoffed, mocking me for acting like a legend on day 1. I sat back down by Emma, who looked over with real concern in her eyes. She quietly asked if I could really do it. I wanted to joke, and I almost did, but did not. But seeing her tense fingers near her notebook reminded me of her warning about Mason. Emma genuinely cared about other people's safety, even virtual strangers in her class. So, I told her simply that I would try. She nodded solemnly, wishing me luck. I thanked her, addressing her formally as Miss Blake. "It sounds strange," she murmured softly. I offered to stop, but she admitted she actually did not dislike the respectful title. My brain, which had successfully handled threats, rumors, and school challenges, suddenly lost all of its cool professional composure. Chloe noticed my flustered face and whispered that I was done for. I told her I heard that, while Mason just muttered that the whole thing was ridiculous. By the end of day 1, Brookfield High had not exactly welcomed me. These seniors had the emotional stability of overcaffeinated squirrels, so warmth was out of the question. But they had updated my profile. I was no longer just some random transfer kid from Westbridge High. Now, I was the guy with the fight rumors, the bad English paper, the secret author persona, and the seat right next to Emma Blake. Throw in Chloe Harper's interest, Mason's annoyance, and a massive academic challenge. That was way too much for day 1. My quiet alias was dead. So we moved on. When the final bell rang, Emma packed her things slowly, giving everyone else a massive head start to clear out. I recognized that trick from my past life. Sometimes, you do not linger because you are slow. You do it because avoiding eyes is easier. You wait because the attention is simply too painful. I did not rush her. Grace left with Chloe, who glanced back in our direction twice. Mason slammed a desk on his way out, just to make a point. Once the room cleared, Emma looked up and finally called me by my name. It was the first time she ever called me Logan, which felt surprisingly important. She warned me to tell Miss Anderson if Mason ever gave me trouble. Adjusting her glasses, she replied that she only trusts some teachers. I promised to remember that. I told her I read the novel, keeping my voice light because speaking up like that clearly took everything she had. Plus, I could finally apologize for the author's terrible punctuation. She simply said she liked it. Those 3 quiet words from Emma shattered my composure way faster than Mason's warning label ever could, making the entire classroom feel soft. I promised to tell him. No jokes, just plain and honest. Some moments are honestly better without any extra flair. Emma gave a quick nod and grabbed her bag. She stopped right at the doorway. Getting first in Chinese across 4 schools is hard. Do simple things repeatedly, she whispered. She vanished before I could even reply. I just sat there staring at the empty door. That specific advice actually came from an online forum comment the night before. I had told Mr. Whitman those exact words earlier. Now Emma was throwing them back to me like a borrowed promise. Brookfield High was already way more dangerous than Westbridge High, for one big reason. In this place, people could actually surprise me for the better. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on Mr. Whitman's desk, which he had dramatically kept for exactly 30 seconds. A message from Ryan lit up the screen. Ryan Brooks texted update, Westbridge High is telling everyone you begged to leave because you could not handle their discipline. I stared at his text, then looked down at my Chinese textbook, and finally at the empty seat Emma had just walked away from. So my old school was already spreading their lies. Fine. I had my novel readers, a new classroom, a 4-school exam, and a quiet girl telling me to stay focused. Let them talk. My grades will speak for themselves. And get this, the genius author they were praising was the exact kid they threw away. Ryan sent over the screenshots while everyone in Miss Anderson's class was still pretending to study on their own. In the first image, the official city education account had shared my story, Exit Pass, as a prime example of excellent student writing. In the second, Westbridge High's forum reposted it, bragging about how proud they were. But then came the third screenshot. Just like that, the post was completely deleted. Underneath, Ryan texted me 5 simple words they realized it was you. Yesterday, I was just a troublesome kid who could not handle the pressure. This morning, I became a literary prodigy for exactly 9 minutes before they completely erased me from their history like an embarrassing typo. Ryan kept texting. He said Morrison pulled Madison aside, and she straight up told him that I was the one who wrote it. Now they wanted to verify if it was plagiarized. Translation: pure panic. I stared at the screen and laughed out loud, because obviously, Madison knew the truth. Months ago, back when I stupidly believed that being useful was the same as being loved, I had shown her one of my early drafts. She called it mildly interesting, then immediately asked me to do her math homework. Our romance was absolutely legendary. Future historians would analyze us and just give up. Now my old school wanted the glory without the actual student. Typical hypocrisy. They loved my grades when it boosted their ranking, loved my writing when they could claim it, but hated my guts the second I stood up for myself. Suddenly, Chloe Harper slid into the empty seat right across from me before I could hide my phone. She did not ask. Chloe treated empty chairs like political opportunities. "Exit pass," she whispered. She had scribbled that exact title on paper earlier. Now she was saying it out loud, her eyes sparkling with dangerous curiosity. Right next to me, Emma completely froze over her notebook. You can feel the tension building up right here. That tiny pause made up my mind I had to act before they could twist the story. Or I could take action right now. I looked directly at Chloe and gave her a time after second period. She smiled, saying that sounded like a yes. "You are incredibly annoying," she added. I told her to post that review under my novel. Beside us, Emma's pen slowly started moving again. This was my wake-up call. If Emma heard this from Chloe first, I would become the cowardly hypocrite I hated, someone who hides behind convenient silence. Once second period ended, I asked Emma to walk with me to the quiet stairwell near the music room. The area was deserted since stressed seniors hated climbing stairs during exams. Emma clutched her notebook to chest and asked if this was about the novel. I simply said yes. She asked if I knew the author. I told her it is me. Her grip tightened. I unlocked my phone and showed her everything: draft histories, viewer comments, and stats. It was the whole chaotic behind-the-scenes look at my writing. Emma stared, then whispered that I had promised to tell the writer. I admitted I did. She called it a cheap trick. That simple accusation cut deeper than any essay could, a quiet moment of her fragile trust hitting a solid wall. Slipping my phone away, I apologized for making a joke out of it. She looked up at me, asking why I was suddenly coming clean now. Because Chloe is suspicious, and Westbridge High is already erasing evidence. If you hear this from anyone else, it will turn into a messy rumor before you get the actual truth. She stayed silent, so I gave her the basic facts a normal classmate could process, keeping the details of my secret rebirth buried deep inside. Back at Westbridge, Madison begged for my help because Tyler was harassing her. But when Tyler tried to provoke me, I just walked away. Then she lied to protect him. The teacher forced me to apologize anyway, and the dean shielded Tyler because he is his son. They demanded I write a confession for something I never did. Her expression shifted as if she was weighing the toxic school rumors against the guy standing right in front of her, searching for what made sense. "So you decided to transfer," she noted. I confirmed it, adding that Westbridge High is now claiming I ran away because I could not handle their rules. Staring out the window, her voice was barely a whisper but incredibly clear. "That is completely unfair. No dramatic tears, no big speech. She just stated the simple truth." I agreed with her completely. I had spent years wishing someone would say that. Then she asked what I planned to do, so I showed her the saved screenshots from Ryan. I will post their deleted compliments on our school forum using my author account. Timestamps, original links, deletion records, and undeniable proof of my identity. Just pure, undeniable facts. Will it make my old school furious? Absolutely. Will people stare at me even more? Definitely. Emma adjusted her glasses, asking why I told her first. That question had a quiet bite to it. Still, I answered honestly, joking about it would have been pure cowardice. I confessed because she liked my novel before knowing I wrote it. I wanted her to know before everyone started treating her like a clue. She lowered her eyes. For a moment, I feared I had made things worse. But then she admitted she was not great at being treated like a clue, though she could keep my secret. Hope itself showed up wearing glasses, holding a notebook like a shield. "Thank you, Miss Blake," she murmured, asking if I would still call her that when everyone knew. "Especially then," I replied, prompting a tiny smile from her. Surprisingly consistent. Meanwhile, Mr. Whitman checked my post before I uploaded it, proving I was actually trying my best not to detonate school politics during lunch. He reviewed the draft, adjusting his glasses, and told me to remove the line about Westbridge High being allergic to facts. It was accurate, but it was basically educational gasoline. So, I cut it. The final post was pretty boring by my standards, meaning it was likely responsible. I attached the official praise, their deleted repost, my author dashboard with the private data blacked out, and a short note: exit pass has officially moved to Brookfield High. Thanking readers who waited, I posted it. The Brookfield High forum lasted exactly 3 minutes before turning into an absolute screaming match. Grace found out first, whipping around in her seat to stare, while Owen Fisher whispered in disbelief. Witnessing a rumor hatch into a dragon, Chloe leaned back, annoyed that she had not been the first to announce it. From the back row, Mason Cooper read the post and muttered that it was ridiculous. This was becoming his classic catchphrase. Emma did not look surprised at all. She kept writing, though her ears flushed pink. Her pink ears mattered far more than the forum. The payoff came faster than Westridge High expected, because their deleted post only gave me a much cleaner screenshot. By lunch, the school knew 3 things: Westbridge High had officially lost their star author. We all knew this drama would spread. I was suddenly the most interesting guy in school, but it put a massive, dangerous target right on Emma's back. It went down during PE, because humiliation loves a crowd, and gym class provides them in bulk. After a light shuttle run, we spent 10 minutes just pretending our bodies were not completely broken. Emma walked in near the back, her face flushed and her glasses slipping slightly. Public physical struggle was not her arena, and the class judged her for it. Back inside, I bought 2 cold waters and set one on her desk. Hydration, I said, calling it advanced sports science. Emma took the bottle with both hands, thanking me softly. Across the aisle, Paige Lawson watched us and whispered loudly enough for the whole room to hear. The author buys Emma water now. What is this? A flower stuck in manure? The room went totally silent. Beside Paige, Chloe let out a nervous laugh that died instantly, while Grace looked right at Emma. Emma froze, her bottle half open, and that was where the joke ended. I could handle rumors about myself. I had been called a problem student, a fake, and worse. But Emma had not asked for this drama. She had warned me about Mason and trusted me completely with her secret. All she did was sit next to me. I stood up, watching Paige's smile instantly vanish. Say that again, I challenged, making her swallow hard. Then write it down, I said. Let us see if it gets funnier when you sign your name. Chloe stepped in, pleading that she did not mean it. You laugh too, I countered, watching Chloe's face turn pale. Both of you will write a handwritten apology note to Emma before evening self-study. Spare us the excuses. If you can turn her into entertainment, use those same skills to fix it. Paige turned bright red, demanding who I was to order them. The guy who will report this to Miss Anderson with every single witness. If you need adult supervision, I snapped. Emma whispered my name, and my voice softened. You do not have to accept their notes if you do not want to, I told her. The quiet hurt in her eyes made their jokes look incredibly cheap. Paige looked away. Chloe's eyes welled up first, hating being seen as the cruel one. She had not even taken the hit directly, but it wounded her pride. Still useful, fine, Chloe whispered, her voice shaking. Right before class ended, Mason suddenly appeared. Seeing Chloe's red eyes and me by Emma's desk, Mason did the basic math of a guy looking for a fight. Meet me outside, Logan, he growled. I replied that I was currently indoors, so he barked to meet at the school gate after class. Emma gripped her bottle as Mason pointed at me. No, I replied. I think they just make me literate. He stepped closer, warning me not to run. I had plenty of great comebacks ready. None were worth making Emma cry, so I just nodded. Once Mason left, she immediately urged me to report him to Miss Anderson. Honestly, the smart move here was reporting him to a teacher. In a perfect world, that would end it. But you and I both know high school doesn't work that way. They would say Emma made me complain, or that she made Chloe cry, claiming Mason was just protecting a classmate. He would get a warning, wait off campus, and Emma would be forced into the spotlight of a drama she never wanted. Reporting it drags your name into it. I do not want that for you, I said. When she asked what I would do, I promised to keep my hands clean. During the next break, I texted Ryan, asking if his cousin still handled adult security for school events. Ryan shot back, asking if it was a paying client or a tragic physics tutor. I replied both, prompting him to ask what happened. I told him Mason was bringing people to the gate. When he asked how many, I joked that I hoped for 15 to 20 for my dignity, making him call me crazy. Next, I asked if his cousin could bring professional witnesses, cameras, and some expensive-looking adults. Ryan agreed, but warned there could be no physical fighting. Perfect. I replied. Fighting is only for idiots who want to ruin their academic records, but I had one major issue: cash. My cash was at home, and his cousin needed a fee. Adults do not mobilize vans for free. With time running out, I sat beside Emma before self-study. I had to ask for a pretty uncomfortable favor. Emma looked up instantly and asked how much. She did not even ask why she knew I would not look this embarrassed over homework. She was spot on. I quickly explained the backup plan: adult witnesses, zero fighting, and absolutely no heroic nonsense. Ryan's cousin was bringing enough muscle to make Mason's street crew seriously rethink their life choices. I just needed a quick cash loan to get this backup moving. Emma listened quietly with her hands folded over her notebook. She asked if anyone would get hurt or if I would hit Mason. My answer was a solid no. She frowned, then looked embarrassed. Hey, embarrassment builds character. Emma opened her bag and grabbed her wallet. But before taking the cash, I pulled up my phone to log the exact debt amount, the purpose, and the payback date. Then I showed her the screen. Emma scanned the note and said I did not have to write it down, but I insisted. Why? Because cash isn't magic, it is trust with numbers attached. She handed over the bills and told me to pay her back on time. I agreed immediately. Soon, the school gate looked completely normal. Kids flooding out, bikes ringing, parents waiting. But across the street, Mason was waiting for me with 6 older guys I had never seen before in my life. Just 6? Honestly, I braced for 15. Major letdown. Mason walked over, hands in pockets, muttering that I actually showed up. I told him I even wore running shoes since someone promised a massive show. One of his goons laughed until Mason glared him down, his face darkening. Mason accused me of making Chloe cry. I countered that Chloe laughed while Paige bullied Emma. Now Chloe is writing an apology. It is called a consequence. No, I just think if someone insults my deskmate, they need to put their apology in writing. Pretty literary, right? Mason stepped right up. Right on cue, 2 massive vans pulled up right behind me. Ryan's cousin stepped out first. I instantly respected this guy. He looked like he read contracts and lifted refrigerators for fun. Behind him, 12 adults in simple jackets stepped out, every single one holding up a phone. They were old enough to make Mason's crew realize their parents would hate seeing them recorded. Ryan's cousin smiled, asking which student needed event security. I raised my hand. Yeah, that would be me. Now watch Mason's face completely change as he asks what the hell is going on. Ryan's cousin just stepped forward. He announced that nobody touches anybody. They were recording the school gate to ensure student safety. If the boys were not looking for trouble, they could keep walking. Suddenly, those tough guys remembered urgent appointments in completely opposite directions. It was absolutely beautiful. Pure administrative logic, completely extinguishing a fire before it even started. Mason only stayed because his massive ego outweighed his common sense. Without his borrowed backup, he looked like a kid who wore way too much to make a bad decision. He sneered, calling me a total coward for bringing in adults. I agreed completely. Hey, I am pretty protective of my SAT score. I am very fragile in that department. Mason's jaw tightened, but Ryan's cousin simply told him to go home. Mason glared, but the recording phones kept him quiet. He walked away, a clean victory, no punches, 0 injuries, 0 record, just silence where his threat used to be. By next morning, photos of the showdown flooded Brookfield High. They made Mason's crew look incredibly small, while my adult witnesses looked hilariously boring. Exactly what I wanted. Paige's apology letter landed on the desk before first period. It was incredibly stiff and nervous, written by someone who finally realized consequences are very real. She apologized for bullying Emma, admitted her joke was pretty cruel, and promised never to do it again. Chloe's note arrived next, much shorter. She admitted she laughed out of pure jealousy, calling her behavior ugly, and saying sorry. Emma read them both in silence. Emma did not smile, but her tense shoulders finally relaxed. I asked if she accepted them. She folded the notes up, stating she only accepted that they wrote them. She accepted the paperwork, not the fake act. Honestly, you have to love her attitude here. By noon, the school forum pinned my post under the literature board. Our teacher Mr. Whitman acted completely clueless about it, which obviously meant he was the one who pulled the strings behind the scenes. Mason's entire group gave me a very wide berth in the halls. Chloe actually stopped flirting for a whole morning, while Emma, who was dragged into the spotlight with me, stared silently at the pinned post, the written apologies, and the massive empty space everyone now left around our desks. At lunch, she mentioned that I told her first, and kept her out of the public post. I told her she is not a prop. Emma looked down quietly. She noted people were still staring. I agreed, asking if it felt better or worse. Emma thought about it and said it felt less lonely. I had no comeback for that. Luckily, Mr. Whitman saved me from answering by dropping a stack of mock exam notices on our desks, telling me to enjoy my temporary fame today. He warned that tomorrow, the brutal joint mock exams would begin. Chloe immediately turned around, asking if it was the massive four-school test. He nodded. We are talking Westbridge, Brookfield, Northgate, and Fairview Prep, complete with the Chinese composition section. Even Mason looked up in sheer panic. Emma gripped her pen tightly. Mr. Whitman flashed me that incredibly cruel smile only teachers can master, mocking my wish to do simple things repeatedly. He told me to start with this exam. My deleted post made me pretty famous. But now, the score sheet was going to make me. The morning after Mason tried to buy some courage, the vice principal, Miss Anderson, called us both out. Mason showed up looking furious, hands stuffed in his pockets. I stood there holding a notebook and a pen, looking completely peaceful since I technically did not hit anyone. Honestly, acting like a scholar looked pretty good on me. Miss Anderson demanded an explanation. I smiled and told her Mason and I are actually best friends. Mason's head snapped over, immediately denying it. I pointed out our comfortable honesty. A solid foundation. Miss Anderson closed her eyes in pure exhaustion. She did that a lot. I was basically her daily cardio. I assured her absolutely no fight happened and nobody got hurt. Some adults just filmed the gate, so Mason went home. Mason muttered that I brought a massive crowd. I quickly reminded him he brought one first. Miss Anderson glared directly at Mason, making him look away. That gave her all the answers she needed. Miss Anderson knows exactly what a lying student smells like. She lowers her voice, warning both of us that, if we turn her class into an off-campus fight club, our parents will know every detail before we can spin it. Mason nods, and I promise her that I am totally committed to boring exits. You are committed to making me retire early, she sighs. Her mouth twitches for a second before she glares at Mason. This drama ends right now. If there is a problem, come directly to me, she warns. Punk's at the gate again, and pride won't save you. We both nod. Miss Anderson holds me back while Mason leaves. Give me the truth, she says. So, I lay out the basics. Paige's insults. Chloe's forced apology note. Mason's threats, the thugs at the gate. No injuries. I keep Emma's deep fear out of this to protect her. Quietly, Miss Anderson listens. When I finish, she admits I handled the physical danger without starting a fight. Good job. Thank you, I reply. She sighs, calling my peaceful standoff a medium-sized public spectacle. She warns me she's watching closely. Now 2 schools are tracking me, but she actually reads evidence. That shuts me up. Fair play. Back at my desk, Emma looks at me with quiet concern, whispering that we are best buds. From the back, Mason makes a gagging sound like he swallowed a staple. My first small victory of the day is incredibly satisfying. Mason does not threaten me, Chloe stays quiet, and Paige stares at Emma's desk like the apology note might literally explode. Here comes the twist. Westbridge High steps in, and Ryan texts me during our class break. Ryan texts that Principal Morrison bought him breakfast. I text back asking if it was poisoned, and Ryan replies with a solid yes. Morrison handed Ryan $60. I just stare at the screen. Before you judge, Ryan texts, I took it for evidence and snack justice. I ask what the principal wanted. Ryan texts back he wants me to pass a message. Westbridge will clear my record if I stop posting about the deleted exit pass drama and let them claim my novel was written at their school. Ryan warns me that Madison is going to text next, playing the guilt card. Right on cue, a friend request pops up from Madison Cole. Her message preview floats on my screen, asking if we can talk, because Morrison claims this is crucial for both our schools. She begs me not to let things get worse. Always dressing up threats. I decline the request immediately. I take a screenshot instead and ask Ryan if he kept the cash. He replies that he is corrupt, not wasteful, so I demand photos of the envelope. File management is part of friendship, Ryan jokes. Right on cue, the clean screenshots arrive. There is Morrison's desk, a folded envelope, and Ryan's thumb photobombing the frame. The text tells Ryan to guide me back to a cooperative attitude. $60. That is the low price of Westbridge High's dignity. I save the files, fighting the urge to leak them. Saved evidence does not expire. My preparation time for the mock exam unfortunately does. Annoying, but true. The joint exams start tomorrow. 4 schools sharing papers with swapped proctors, creating enough nervous teenage energy to power the entire city. Staring at the answer sheet, my humor completely vanishes. In my past life, exams were just a final punishment room after getting suspended. Sitting with a marked record, labeled as a constant risk. My parents pretended not to worry over dinner, while my anxious brain raced, failing to solve simple problems. Having a fresh start now does not just erase those heavy memories, The exam paper smells of ink and fresh glue. Fingers resting on the desk. New school, clean slate. Just take it step by step. Read the question, dodge the trap, write the answer. The first test goes smoothly. Exams should always be this boring if adults stopped forcing us into emotional circus acts. Next up is Chinese. Out in the hall, Grace whispers that everyone is losing their minds over the essay topics. Chloe has 3 essays completely memorized, looking ready to sue the school board if none of those topics show up. Emma quietly studies her notebook. Scanning the hallway crowd, I lean in and whisper, "Review environmental policy and youth responsibility." I advise them. Fisher blinks and asks why. "Because if it is about pop culture, we are dead anyway," I reply. Narrowing her eyes, Chloe asks if this is some author instinct. "No, it is academic survival." Emma calmly takes notes. "You actually believe him?" Chloe asks. Emma does not even look up, saying I might be strange, but never random. Honestly, that is the nicest thing anyone has said. When the exam papers are handed out, the whispers from the hall return like a persistent debt collector. Look at their faces. The essay topic matches my prediction so perfectly that every classmate turns around and stares in pure shock. Having future memories is like using a dying flashlight. It shows me the path, but I still have to walk it myself. I write down my answers. Writing my web novel prepared me well. The essay has a solid structure. I finish and submit early. Out in the hall, Dean Hayes from Westbridge is keeping watch. This joint proctoring is supposed to keep things fair, but it mostly feels like spying. Teachers just smile politely while sizing up the rival kids. He spots me walking out, scowls, and asks if I am done already. "Yes, sir," I reply. He sneers that confidence does not equal talent, but I fire back that this is exactly why I wrote down answers. He warns me that Westbridge students are still working inside. Good, they need the extra time, I smirk. Walking past him, I suddenly stop and call his name. If the board asks about my web novel, should I tell them the author could not handle your discipline, or that your school could not handle our deletion? For just a second, his polished administrator face cracked completely. Then he recovered, telling me I should worry about my own score. But that was the exact difference between us. Back in my past life, I used to worry as if being afraid was an actual strategy. This time, I put all that energy into writing. Ryan's text came right after the final exam. Ryan Brooks texted that Westbridge High just announced an emergency writing contest. He said the theme was that real literary talent begins with moral character. Ryan texted me saying they literally invented a whole contest just to shade me. I messaged back that I was absolutely honored by the attention. Morrison apparently claimed that plagiarized internet novels have zero exam value. I told Ryan to remind him that punctuation crimes still count as literature. Ryan then asked if he could keep the $60. I texted him that he could keep the cash for emotional damages, and he joked about finally getting justice. 2 days later, the official score sheets were posted. Brookfield High announced the results with massive pride. Schools always preach humility until a top ranking makes them look good. Suddenly, humility goes out the window. Miss Anderson walked in holding the printed list, with Mr. Whitman right beside her. An administrator stood at the door, looking like he came to inspect a miracle and hoped it wore our school uniform. The entire classroom fell dead silent. Miss Anderson's eyes locked onto mine. Logan Miller, present and emotionally prepared. She dryly told me that no, I was not. Rude, but highly accurate. Mr. Whitman quickly took the list from her before I could ruin the dramatic moment. He announced my Chinese composition and total score, first place, across all 4 schools. The classroom erupted in noise, with Chloe half jumping out of her seat. Yes, first out of 4 schools. Mason stared from the back like I personally shattered the natural order. Now look at Emma, she slowly turns to me, her eyes completely wide behind her glasses. I tried to look modest, failing with dignity. Mr. Whitman kept going. I tied for the top score in English, and made the highest tier in math. For the science section, he paused, calling it the human part. It was solid, but not godly. Some of my classmates started laughing at that. It was not cruel laughter, just pure relief. The beast had a weak spot, so the villagers could finally sleep. I nodded, appreciating proof that I was still mortal. Miss Anderson checked the paper. Overall, first in Brookfield High, an absolute top tier across all 4 schools. That was the exact sentence that shifted the whole room. English made me interesting. My exit pass made me noisy. The gate trouble made me inconvenient. This made me valuable. Brookfield's top-ranked student in the joint mock had literally transferred from Westbridge just 2 days after they branded him a discipline problem. Somewhere, I hoped Mr. Morrison was drinking a cold glass of karma. Midst the absolute chaos, Emma slid her score sheet over. Her grades were actually much more stable than she gave herself credit for. Strong English, solid Chinese, decent math, and science that needed work but was no disaster. I told her she did great, but she shook her head. She whispered that it was not like mine. I joked that if everyone scored like me, Miss Anderson would quit. Pointing to her score, I noted her composition improved. Looking down, she admitted she used my community examples. I told her that was tactical trust, or as teachers call it, solid revision. Before Emma could hide her paper, Chloe leaned over, declaring she was beating us in English next time. When Emma looked confused, Chloe pointed at both of us, especially me. I called it healthy competition, terrifying coming from her, but healthy. Mason grumbled from the back that being first in Chinese did not mean I could fight. I turned and agreed, saying that was exactly why we were best friends. The class burst out laughing, while Mason turned bright red and Miss Anderson tapped the podium. She warned us both that if she heard another word before lunch, she would separate us from the concept of free speech. I joked that it sounded unconstitutional. She dared me to try her, so I shut up before my survival instincts complained. Of course, those rankings did not stay inside our school. Before dinner, Ryan sent over Westbridge High's reaction, texting that my score sheet had completely blown up their group chats. He said Morrison was desperately trying to calm everyone down, while Dean Hayes was demanding to know who leaked the entire ranking list. Then Ryan sent a photo from Westbridge High. Someone had printed out the full four-school ranking list and drawn a massive circle right around my name. In messy ink next to it, someone wrote that the kid who transferred out ended up ranking above them all. It was incredibly petty, and I loved every bit of it. After evening study, Mr. Whitman found me standing by the literature board, where my exit pass post was still pinned. He smiled, noting I delivered on my challenge. I asked if that meant I got my phone back during Chinese class. He replied only after assigned work, which was a brutally cruel detail. He corrected me, calling it an educational detail. He handed me a folder, explaining the school wanted to host an open literature class for visiting board leaders next week. They needed student work showing that Brookfield High fostered genuine talent. He wanted me to stand up and speak about my exit pass and exam writing. I stared at the folder and told him it sounded like a total trap. He countered that it was simply an opportunity with a schedule, ignoring my request to decline. He said I could try. Opening the folder, I scanned the class outline, the literature club notice, and the official board attendance sheet. Westbridge High discarded a top student like trash. Now look at Brookfield, they are presenting that same student right to the visiting school board. This was no longer just a high test score, it was straight-up ammunition. Mr. Whitman warned me not to use this class to rant, and I promised him I would never. He dryly advised me to use my head instead. I stared back at the literature board, looking at the deleted post and my top-ranked name in Miss Anderson's hand. I promised I would. The joint mock test had become an absolute slap in the face. Next week, Brookfield High wanted me to deliver it with a polite smile. Before I even touched the microphone, Director Marshall asked me which school was better. That was the moment I learned adults could smile like a trap with good manners. The school board inspection team gathered near the literature classroom entrance, with Dean Roberts, our head dean, hovering nervously beside them like a host whose guests could literally repossess his house. Mr. Whitman told me to use my head, while Miss Anderson ordered me to make fewer jokes. Both tasks were unfairly impossible for me. Director Marshall glanced down at my folder, then looked up at me, noting I had recently transferred from Westbridge High. Yes, Director Marshall, tell me honestly, which school do you think is actually better, Westbridge High or Brookfield High? Dean Roberts froze up completely. Miss Anderson stared at me with the sheer terror of a teacher watching her student tap dance off a cliff. Talk about a total death trap. Praise Westbridge, and Brookfield loses face. Trash them, and I just look bitter. Dodge with a weak answer, and I am just a trophy. So I took the only safe path left. Westbridge High taught me pressure, I said, but Brookfield High taught me balance. Director Marshall raised his eyebrows. I kept talking before ruining it. I did learn a lot at Westbridge since their pace is pretty strong. But here, Miss Anderson actually judges me on my classwork. Mr. Whitman corrects my writing without treating mistakes like a crime, letting me prove myself through real work instead of school rumors. For someone facing the Scholastic Assessment Test, that means everything. Dean Roberts finally breathed. Director Marshall smiled, calling it a very careful answer. Well, I was recently told to stop ranting. Whitman let out a single cough, a clear warning disguised as throat clearing. In the back, another leader laughed. Director Marshall turned to Dean Roberts, noting the teachers gave me plenty of room. Nodding, Roberts replied that Brookfield balances pressure and space. Now that line belongs on a school billboard. Dean Roberts looked so relieved I left him a lifeline instead of a smoking crater. Nodding toward the literature board, Director Marshall called for a photo. I should have just stood there normally. I almost did. Then Marshall asked if I wrote exit pass. Correct, I said. Plus, I ranked first in Chinese in the 4 school mock exams. And watch this, the second trap had arrived, wearing the first trap jacket. I saw my post still pinned on the board, then spotted Dean Roberts trying to disappear. Smiling, I told them it is obviously whichever school I currently attend. For 1 second, professional decorum shattered. Director Marshall burst out laughing, and Miss Anderson covered her mouth in shock. Mr. Whitman stared at the ceiling, praying for patience. I quickly added that since I am at Brookfield, I will gladly take the photo to make us look good. Director Marshall pointed at me, laughing that I am a handful. Then, we took the photo. There we were, Director Marshall, Dean Roberts, Mr. Whitman, Miss Anderson, and me, posing right by the board. I flashed my test scores because Marshall insisted, and hey, I am a humble guy who respects authority when it lets me show off. By afternoon, Ryan already saw it. Ryan texted that he leaves me alone for 1 hour and I join the government. I replied, Student Cultural Review. He texted back pointing out I am literally standing next to Director Marshall. I replied that I basically tripped into civic duty. I texted him to use flattering angles. He replied, always, since he is corrupt but professional. Soon, that photo spread faster than wildfire. By evening, the Westbridge teachers saw it. Mr. Morrison even ordered Homeroom 204 to ignore unverified online boasting. Their dean, Hayes, was furious, asking who allowed board leaders to take photos with a transfer student. Suddenly, the physical education department at Westbridge High announced a massive crackdown on public teasing, physical provocation, and off-campus student harassment. You see that? That is the glorious power of career-ending panic. But the fun completely stopped when my mom called. Logan, she said softly, Dean Hayes called our house. I walked behind the classroom to find some quiet. What did he say? He asked if you were adapting. Then he claimed that if there were any misunderstandings about your file, they could discuss it. The same people who kicked me out now wanted to talk. Did he apologize? I asked. My mom paused. No. Then there is nothing to discuss. Your dad wants to know why a dean suddenly cares after you transferred, she said. I told her to tell Dad I am fine, and do not sign anything if they call back. We will not, she promised. That settled something inside me. In my past life, my parents were dragged through offices and shamed until they were exhausted. This time, Westbridge has to beg politely. It is not total justice yet, but the tides are turning. The next week, my open literature class began, and Mr. Whitman promised it would be simple. Yeah, right. Simple means dozens of adults will sit in the back silently judging your soul. Soon, the room filled with students, teachers, and school leaders. Miss Anderson stood near the wall, arms folded, looking ready to drag me out by the collar if I treated this presentation like a stand-up comedy show. Emma sat in the second row, hands clamped on her notebook. She looked nervous for me, which was unfair because I already had that covered. Mason leaned against the back wall with his friends, trying to act bored. He failed miserably when the leaders walked in. Whitman introduced me with a speech so short it proved he respected oxygen. He announced Logan Miller recently transferred here. He wrote exit pass and ranked first in Chinese during mocks. Today, he will discuss exam writing under time pressure. Then, he gave me a quick nod. I stepped up, holding my score sheet and my draft. I told everyone that the reason I am showing my scores first is pretty simple. I am showing off. The crowd laughed. Whitman closed his eyes, but Marshall smiled. If I preach discipline before proving I can pass, everyone thinks I am just a big mouth with a hobby. I do have a big mouth, but I bring receipts. Look, exit pass did not save my grades with magic. It just taught me to execute simple tasks repeatedly. Verify the logic, cut the useless fluff, answer the actual question, and repeat. Listening in, Mr. Whitman finally let his guard down a fraction. Up until now, I hadn't made a joke of his teaching. When I first transferred here, everyone labeled me a troublemaker. A few still do. That is totally fine. Labels are easy. Real work is harder. Thankfully, Brookfield High gave me a space where my results actually spoke. Miss Anderson didn't expect me to fake any guilt. Mr. Whitman never just praised my writing while ignoring my mistakes. He gave me a push in the right direction. The room went quiet. I knew exactly what I wanted to say. The anger was right there, sitting behind my teeth, fueled by Morrison's face and Dean Hayes' voice. I could have let it rip. I could have shocked the whole room. Instead, I looked over at Emma. She was watching me, trusting me to take the high road. So, I did. If there is one lesson I have learned, I told them, it is that facts matter most when everyone is trying to ignore them. Grades, drafts, apologies, actual progress. Just do the simple things over and over, and eventually, the rumors people spread will have to face the cold hard facts. Nobody moved at first. Then, from the back row, someone muttered beast. Beast! Suddenly, half the class was chanting it because high schoolers can turn literally any serious moment into a loud stadium crowd, given 3 seconds and zero supervision. It echoed, beast, beast, beast. For the record, I absolutely didn't start this. Mr. Whitman tapped his podium. Enough. But they got louder. Miss Anderson tried to hide a small smile. Over by the wall, Mason wasn't chanting, but his eyes had changed. I wasn't his target anymore. Now, I was a puzzle that had annoyed him, and then solved itself. Director Marshall clapped first, and the administrators followed. The chanting immediately turned into applause. And for just one beautiful moment, I wasn't Westbridge High's expelled nightmare, Madison's old shield, or Dean Hayes's biggest threat. I was simply a Brookfield student. That validation actually hit me pretty hard. After class, the director shook my hand and watched this. He literally complimented me on almost crossing the line without actually doing it. He added that Brookfield was incredibly lucky to have me. Meanwhile, Dean Roberts looked like he'd just been handed a massive gold brick. Mr. Whitman waited for the bosses to leave before whispering that I almost lost it back there. I smiled, but I didn't. He just smirked and said he noticed. Of course, he wouldn't change my grade. That afternoon, the school posted the open class footage. They highlighted my line about simple things, the test joke, and the chant. In under an hour, everyone was quoting me on the school boards. 2 hours in, Ryan sent over a telling screenshot from the Westbridge group chat. Ryan texted me that Morrison called the chant childish. I replied that Morrison deleted his praise post and bribed Ryan with breakfast money. Ryan replied that he stayed quiet because he's a professional informant. Then he added that Dean Hayes explicitly told all staff to ignore the board drama. The translation meant they were terrified. I should have savored the victory longer, but instead, I was in the library, playing the viral video while researching suppliers on another tab. The supplier was a brand called Willow Lace Boutique. I picked this exact market for a pretty petty reason. I remembered its wild success from my past life. This tiny online shop had absolutely exploded during the holidays. Their shipping speed, neat packaging, and super comfortable basics launched right as Christmas shopping went completely savage. The business was legal, incredibly boring on paper, and honestly embarrassing enough to make any guy question every single one of his life choices. It was perfect. To the world, I was the inspiring high school writer. On my screen, I was deeply tracking wholesale loungewear and shipping fees. Talk about duality. I quickly blocked the screen when Emma walked past because, thankfully, my survival instincts were still working. She stopped by my desk, asking if I was researching for my book or just grinding for cash. She tilted her head, calling it dangerous. I smiled. It usually is. But capital was a real issue. The viral video got me fame, but views don't pay for inventory. My tiny budget could only cover the website setup and a single test batch. If things went viral, like in my memories, demand would outpace my funds instantly. I stared at the screen, the wholesale page, and then Emma's sweet, curious face. See what I mean? Fame, romance, and massive business pressure were colliding. Why couldn't I just have a normal senior year? Instead, I got a classroom chant, and an online store niche I couldn't explain out loud. Right as my video went viral, Madison tried to add me back on social media. Honestly, her timing was so incredibly shameless it deserved an award. Her notification sat there on my phone while I sat pretending my supplier search was just normal homework. Of course, her message came with that same familiar, desperate panic. Madison begged me to talk, claiming Morrison said the board video was making everything complicated. She just wanted things to be like before. Like before. Ridiculous. That phrase was so old and rotten, it felt like a science experiment. I took a quick screenshot for my blackmail folder, then instantly hit decline. I turned my focus back to Emma, who was standing there clutching her notebook. I asked her if she watched movies. She blinked, telling me only sometimes. I smiled. Perfect. I explained I was doing research on whether viral authors can handle normal social lives. She looked at me, asking if I was inviting her out. I said yes. She glanced down at my closed laptop, teasingly asking if this was for business or art, reminding me she lent me money earlier. I reminded her I paid her back already. She admitted she knew, and when I asked why she brought it up, her face went red. She whispered that she just wasn't used to guys asking her out. That completely threw me off for a moment. Quite a rare victory for her. So, I asked her straight up, Emma Blake, will you go to the movies with me this weekend? She looked down, saying she had to ask her dad first. I told her that was fine, but she insisted on paying. I stopped her, saying I invited her, so I pay. She joked that it sounded like a debt, but I fired back that it sounded like a date. She instantly froze. Maybe I should have eased into that. Too late now. Her voice dropped, repeating the word date. I quickly joked that if she hated the term, we could just call it a structured cultural field trip with snacks. She softly replied that a date was perfectly fine. I kept my cool, celebrated silently, and made sure I didn't get kicked out of Miss Anderson's library. I just nodded like a calm, mature guy, but on the inside, my brain completely melted down. The big day arrived 2 days later. I grabbed some milk tea, because sweet gestures need actual planning to work. Then, Emma arrived, wearing a lovely white dress under her winter coat, holding her small bag with both hands. Seeing her look so breathtakingly different, my heart completely stopped. I tried to cover my shock with a joke. "Miss Blake," I teased, "you have totally ruined the seating chart." She glanced down at her dress, asking if it looked weird. "Oh, absolutely." Her shoulders tensed up as I admitted that my entire vocabulary had suddenly become useless. Looking up, the tension slowly drained from her eyes. "Just tell the truth and stop talking," I told myself. We watched a movie, but honestly, neither of us remembered a single frame. Maybe the movie just sucked, but honestly, I was more than willing to take half the blame. For the first 20 minutes, Emma clutched her milk tea like her life depended on it. But halfway through, her hand drifted onto the armrest. Mine was already waiting right next to it. Seriously, you have no idea how intense that tiny gap between our fingers was. Forget the actors watching us try to touch hands had insane suspense. When my fingers finally brushed against hers, she did not flinch. So I just held her hand. Meanwhile, Emma stared forward with absolute, heroic focus. She whispered that my hand was warm. I told her I studied for this. She bit her lip, hiding a smile, and afterward, I finally gave her the bracelet. Just a simple silver band, with a tiny pale charm. Nothing too pricey to scare her away, but nothing cheap enough to insult the moment. I chose it because her hands were always so delicate writing, adjusting her glasses, or folding up apology letters. Even when lending cash, she always made me sign a debt sheet. Before she could protest, I said this was not repayment, that debt is separate, I just wanted to do this. Emma held the bracelet, asking why. "Because when everyone called me a problem, you asked if I was okay. Because you believed in my novel before it blew up, and you warned me about Mason when you barely knew me." She blinked quickly, whispering that was a lot of reasons. I teased that I cut some for time, making her laugh. As I clipped it on her wrist, neither of us ruined the vibe. Her hand shook slightly. Mine did too. Then, being my usual awkward self, I offered to walk her home. Her eyes widened, so I quickly clarified I just meant to her door. Just a public sidewalk, fully legal, with no dramatic misunderstandings. She hugged her handbag tighter, murmuring that she knew I did not mean anything else. But she was still using her purse as a shield. She looked away, ears turning bright pink, admitting that the little mix-up actually made her pretty happy. Naturally, Ryan ruined the moment. 3 minutes later, Ryan Brooks popped up across the street holding a street food skewer, looking like he just struck pure gold. Shouting my name, Ryan ran over. I closed my eyes as Emma asked if that was him. Sadly, yes. He told us to smile for the records. I warned him I would break his neck, but he snapped the photo anyway. By nightfall, that photo was everywhere: school group chats and class forums. Ryan basically thinks privacy is just a fictional concept for other people. I did not even try to deny it. When some forum post asked if I was dating Emma Blake, I just replied that she owed our seating chart an explanation. Emma saw it and buried her face in her notebook for a solid minute. Before class, Miss Anderson passed by Emma's notebook shield, teasing that gossip was not homework. I joked that she was limiting our options, but she warned it kept her from assigning papers. That shut the classroom up instantly. Emma finally relaxed, and I made a mental note of how useful a quiet teacher intervention could be. Madison saw the picture too. I knew because Ryan sent me a screenshot of her reaction from the school chat, and she had gone completely silent again. Her silence spoke volumes. Next up, Chloe. Next morning, Chloe slid into the desk ahead of us, looking incredibly dramatic. She smirked, saying the author had a date, a bracelet, and a secret laptop tab. My pen froze. Emma stared as Chloe smiled sweetly, blackmailing me for breakfast, or else she would expose my secret library searches for Willow Lace Boutique. Emma's eyes darted between us. Now watch closely, because my past was about to catch up with me. Her face stayed totally blank, which was way worse. I quickly blurted out that it was just a boring, legal clothing store with really embarrassing branding. Chloe laughed so hard she dropped her breakfast bun, teasing that I was selling underwear. I insisted I was just analyzing a niche market. Emma pushed up her glasses and quietly asked why that specific market. I easily could have lied to her. but lying to Emma now would be peak stupidity. I explained that around the holidays, small online niches explode if the product is practical, cheap, and shipped very discreetly. I had seen a store like this explode before. It is pretty embarrassing, sure, but the market demand is absolutely real. Chloe asked how I remembered. I smoothly blamed old business forums, keeping my impossible secrets hidden. Emma glanced down at her new bracelet, then looked up, asking if I needed cash. I promised her I had already paid back my other debts. I had not borrowed money for the store and did not plan to. Emma nodded, satisfied. Chloe leaned forward, asking if our breakfast deal was on. Fine, I agreed. One breakfast. But only if she stopped shouting my business secrets across the classroom. She smirked, pushing for 2 breakfasts instead. To sweeten the deal, I promised to explain how I beat her in English. Chloe agreed, and that very night, our new Willow Lace store officially went live. I kept the website super clean, with basic product names, 0 crazy slogans, simple sizing, and no weird descriptions. Shipping was discreet, and I wrote professional customer service emails so I did not sound like a stressed-out teen sweating over a keyboard. Ryan ran our first promo wave through his online contacts, which basically meant he spammed dozens of chats with a single text saying his friend opened a mystery store. He told them to click the link if they had taste and to not ask questions. I called him immediately, demanding to know why he wrote that. Ryan argued that mystery sells, but I knew boring shops do not go viral. He was totally wrong, but honestly, he was pretty useful. Orders started rolling in right before midnight, one after another. Just tiny numbers at first, but they were real names, actual addresses, hard cash. I couldn't stop staring at the screen. Good grades and test scores felt nice. But this was a whole different beast. A store doesn't applaud you. It demanded packaging, quick customer replies, inventory, shipping, and enough cash just to survive. By morning, the order count completely blew past what my tiny test batch could handle. I could see success, but I also saw the massive headache coming. During lunch, Mason cornered me behind the gym. He looked exhausted, not angry, just beaten down. His uniform was half-zipped, his hair a total mess, and he didn't even start with a threat. That alone told me this was serious. He asked if I paid people for the store. I closed my dashboard and said it depends on the job. He stared at the ground. He muttered that his grandmother was hospitalized again, and his dad got hurt in a crash last month. He needed money. The tough guy act was completely gone. It was pure pride being forced to walk barefoot over broken glass. Disliking Mason used to be so easy. He used to threaten me and try to act tough, but standing here begging without knowing how, he looked nothing like Tyler. Tyler had protectors. Mason was just drowning in his own skin. I asked if he wanted a loan, and his jaw clenched. I told him to forget it because I don't give handouts, but I did have real work. He stopped, looking suspicious. What kind? I need help with customer messages, sorting orders, and packing lists. No jokes in public, keep your tough act away from buyers, and I will pay a solid bonus if you keep it clean. He looked at me like I just handed him paid homework. He asked if I wanted him to work for me, but I told him he was working for cash. I was just the annoying boss. If he messed up, he was fired. For once, he almost smiled. He called me arrogant. Consistent branding, I replied. He looked away, asking why I was even helping if it had to be a secret. Honestly, seeing him like this changed things. Sure, I needed labor, and hiring a rival is efficient, but the real answer was right there on his exhausted face. Needing money does not make you weak, I said. But acting cruel for respect? That does. Mason swallowed hard, the mood turning dead serious. He finally agreed to try, and I teased that trying was cute, but orders needed accurate addresses. He rolled his eyes, and we both finally breathed. Just like that, Mason Cooper, my former high school bully turned reluctant logistics manager, sat next to me in an empty classroom, learning how to handle customer support for Willow Lace without starting fights. It was incredibly painful, but we got things done. Within an hour, he processed 12 orders, fixed 3 addresses, and asked if our store name was supposed to sound like some weird mushroom. I told him Willow Lace is memorable and sounds like a snack. He glared, asking if my intimidation strategy did too, but kept typing. As orders kept rising, Emma watched us from the doorway after class, her expression thoughtful. She asked if he worked for me now, making Mason freeze. I replied that he works for money, and Emma nodded, satisfied with that. Mason glanced at her bracelet, then at me, and wisely kept quiet. Maturity was spreading, which was honestly terrifying. That night, our sales numbers reached a milestone I didn't expect until the weekend. Ryan sent 3 hysterical texts, and Chloe demanded breakfast before hiking her consulting fees. Meanwhile, Mason sent a photo of packed orders captioned simply as done. He added to keep the pay accurate. I looked at the dashboard, feeling the weight of Emma's trust in my decisions. The store was real, the deadline was real, and Mason's desperation was real. Then, right before midnight, our class group chat absolutely exploded. A local high school kid claimed he got early admission to Rockwell University through a secret backdoor channel. No SAT scores needed. Just pay a fee, pass their private exam, and secure your future. Mason texted me at the exact same time, warning me that orders were spiking and we desperately needed more inventory. I stared at a scam college link on one side and my real business dashboard on the other. You can probably guess which problem I had to tackle first. Caleb Warren bragged about skipping the SAT exams before first period, which confirmed the fake Rockwell scam was finally here. He stood in class, holding his phone up like a trophy. His screen displayed a bright red admission stamp and a private consulting account. It had just enough official wording to make gullible parents hear wedding bells. Caleb kept hyping up the backdoor entrance, claiming his uncle had deep connections. The entire class swarmed him like he held the key to their future. I just sat there, watching our sales climb. Mason had already texted twice about ordering more boxes. I had planned on acting like a normal student with typical teenage problems today, which was pretty naive of me. But then Caleb dropped the magic words, no SAT scores needed. In senior year, a phrase like that isn't just a relief. It is a weapon disguised as a sweet treat. When someone asked if it was real, Caleb bragged that his family already paid the review fee. He claimed that passing their private test guaranteed a spot, a paid review fee, and a held seat. This scam hadn't changed one bit since my past life. I walked over to inspect his phone. The logo was almost identical, the phrasing was slick, and the hotline number was barely off from the real deal. A sloppy trick would have been easier to bust, but these scammers actually did their homework. How rude. Since homework is for honest, suffering students. I told him to call the official Rockwell admissions office. Caleb sneered, saying he already did, but he had just dialed the fake number on the flyer. That was the number made up by the guys taking his cash. The entire room went quiet, sensing things were about to get very interesting. Caleb's face hardened as he asked if I was calling him stupid. I just told him to look up the real university website. He claimed I was jealous. Pride was standing right there in a high school uniform, clinging to a fake future. I pulled out my phone and searched the actual university site. I offered him the correct number, but Caleb refused to grab it. Everyone stared, and Chloe slowly lowered her half-eaten breakfast bun to watch the drama unfold. Emma froze by the window, her bright bracelet catching the light. That was when Miss Anderson walked in, absolute worst timing for peace, but perfect for survival. She asked why everyone was standing, and a classmate blurted out that Caleb got into the Rockwell private channel. Miss Anderson looked at Caleb's phone, then straight at me. She had a real teacher sense for when my mouth was about to create a massive pile of paperwork. She looked at me, demanding the short version. I told her the family got scammed, so we had to call the official number. Caleb immediately snapped. "You do not know that," he yelled. "Good," I replied. "Prove me wrong in public." It was unfair, but effective. He took my phone like a snake. Miss Anderson stood near while he dialed the official speaker call. Everyone held their breath. It connected. Miss Anderson took the lead, since adults tend to sound a lot less chaotic to other adults. She gave our school name, explained that a student received a private entrance notice, and read the number. The admissions officer on the other end went completely silent for 3 seconds. Then she spoke. "Rockwell University has no private channel for final year students. Do not transfer any money, keep your records, and report this to the police." Caleb's entire face shifted. First the pride drained, then all the color. That was my early reward, tasting like pure relief mixed with a heavy dose of dread. Miss Anderson snatched up the paper. She asked if they paid a deposit, and Caleb swallowed hard while lowering his voice. The joke was over. Miss Anderson did not scold him. Good teachers knew when reality had already punched a kid. "Call your parents right now," she said. "Tell them not to send a single cent. Logan, send me that link and a screenshot of this notice. Monitor, tell the office to contact Dean Roberts immediately. Everyone else, sit down and stop forwarding this until we verify it." The students scrambled. Fear did what school announcements never could. Within 20 minutes, Brookfield High had the flyer, Caleb's chats, and 2 other students admitting their families had asked about this exact same channel. And Dean Roberts walked straight into our classroom looking like a man whose peaceful morning had just been dragged behind a speeding bus. He listened to Miss Anderson, checked the official site, and called the police from the hall. I kept a blank face, but inside, ugly old memories were unrolling with terrifying precision. In my first life, this scam tore through parent group chats for days. By the time everyone realized it was fake, families had lost money they could never recover. Westbridge High got hit the hardest because those wealthy parents absolutely loved shortcut paths, as long as they had a fancy elite brand attached. But this time, we caught it before lunch, which is huge. Now watch what happens when I message Ryan. If anyone at Westbridge High mentions Rockwell early admission, tell them to call the real website number, not the flyer. Screenshot everything. Ryan replied in 12 seconds. Ryan joked back, asking if it came with a fantasy certificate, before switching right back into serious mode. 3 minutes later, he sent the first screenshot showing that Madison had posted about it. My stomach immediately tightened. Naturally, Madison did not post the full notice. She only showed the pretty red seal and congratulations, adding a bitter caption about finally succeeding without the people who wanted her to fail. Smooth as a brick through glass, Ryan warned her directly in the chat. He told her to call the real admissions number from the official website because our school just checked and the flyer is fake. Brianna Wells shut him down immediately. She claimed I hate seeing Madison succeed. Ryan fired back, saying his dream was for their school to find some excuse besides jealousy. Brianna immediately messaged back, claiming that Ryan was only saying this because I ordered him to do it. Ryan agreed, calling me annoying but highly alert to scams. Then Madison finally chimed in, telling Ryan to stop spreading useless panic. She claimed her parents already confirmed it with the office. Ryan forwarded me that screenshot with a facepalm they had called the fake flyer office. I looked across the classroom. Caleb was out in the hallway, phone glued to his ear and shoulders hunched as Miss Anderson watched him. Look at the contrast here. Caleb went from bragging to looking like a terrified kid trying to save his family. I typed back, tell Madison to call the official number on speaker. If she refuses, just drop our school verification screenshot and stop wasting your breath arguing. Ryan warned she would call me jealous. I told him fine, then she can get scammed with confidence. Cold? Yes. But my old self would have loved it. My old self had earned that bitterness. But this involved family savings, not just Madison's foolish pride. This meant panicking families, fathers shifting money, and mothers hoping for a clean way out. Revenge is fun, but watching innocent parents pay for a liar's arrogance is absolutely not. So Ryan sent the warning again, attaching the official number, the real website screenshot, and Miss Anderson's verified class note. Naturally, Westbridge High did what they do best. They actively argued with hard, undeniable evidence. Madison went quiet, while Mr. Morrison ordered Homeroom 204 not to spread unconfirmed fear. That ridiculous phrase deserved a trophy for being completely wrong. Brookfield High, however, moved like a school that really hated being sued. Dean Roberts immediately fired off an emergency notice to parent groups. Teachers called families directly, Miss Anderson forced students to forward their chat logs, and the police arrived before our afternoon study session even started. 2 plainclothes officers walked in looking exhausted in that special way adults get when real-world fraud decides to run rampant. They skipped the boring lecture and gave 3 simple, human instructions: keep your records, do not send money, and use official numbers only. One officer asked who pushed for the official number check first. Miss Anderson pointed directly at me. I raised a hand, trying to stay low-key. The officer stared at the classroom looking at me, then at the live video pinned to the school forum, telling me I was failing at being low-key. He was totally right. By late afternoon, we finally got our first major win. Dean Roberts announced some massive news. Thanks to our early warning, the cops and banks froze those scam accounts just in time, saving almost all the cash Brookfield families sent. Hearing that, Caleb literally collapsed into his chair, completely drained. Covering his face with his hands, Caleb whispered that his mom was supposed to pay the second fee tonight. Nobody in the room laughed. Miss Anderson quietly set the notice down on her desk. Then tonight, she does not, she said. Her quiet words hung in the air, landing better than any dramatic speech because it meant real money stayed in a family's pockets. Meanwhile, things got way worse for Ryan. He sent a noisy voice message, warning that Westbridge High parents were completely losing their minds. Many families had already paid way past the first deposit. Principal Morrison kept telling everyone not to panic, but now they wanted to know why Brookfield got warned first. Next came another screenshot. A Westbridge parent group shared a police notice, and there it was in plain text, listing the hero who leaked it first, Logan Miller. Since my school transfer records were still lingering in the database, someone accidentally tagged my old Westbridge class before correcting it to Brookfield High. The parents only cared about one key thing. Logan Miller, former Westbridge kid, just saved Brookfield families. We did not even have to guess because Ryan sent live photos. Just look at this absolute chaos in the Westbridge hallways. One woman in a beige coat waved her phone, demanding to know why the kid they kicked out was the only one smart enough to spot the scam. Beside her, another guy yelled for the teacher of Homeroom 204. Others screamed that Brookfield actually saved their kids' cash while Westbridge was busy protecting their own precious reputation. Right then, Ryan sent the most satisfying yet chaotic update of the day, saying they finally caught Morrison. The attached photo was super blurry, but we all knew what it meant. Morrison stood trapped in his office doorway, trying to look professionally concerned. Furious parents cornered him with phones raised, demanding why he ignored me. For months, Westbridge wanted everyone to think I was just some troubled kid they kicked out. Now, those same parents were asking why that exact problem student just saved another school thousands. I glanced at Caleb, still looking pale but totally safe from that second payment. Then I looked at Miss Anderson gathering paperwork, and then at my phone, where the willow lace dashboard was actively buzzing with a brand new order. One major scam was officially dead, but my actual business hustle was just getting started. Meanwhile, across town, Westbridge parents had completely surrounded Morrison's office. While those furious parents were giving Morrison absolute hell, Mason stumbled onto a massive new emergency that our store, Willow Lace, created all on its own. He cornered me right before morning classes and shoved his screen directly into my face, muttering that we cannot ship all this. That was just how Mason Cooper said hello these days. Normal people say good morning, but Mason prefers total panic. Looking down, the sales numbers made my stomach do a nervous little flip. Orders had surged after Ryan's promo, and they spiked again once buyers realized we shipped high-quality goods in discreet packaging without any sketchy business. Success was awesome, but it definitely had teeth. Mason warned we were running out of inventory, boxes, and customer service time. You have classes, I have buyers, and you have both, he said. Since senior year is already a total nightmare, he gave me a deadpan look, suggesting he skip self-study. No way, I said. That delays orders. We need to build a system instead. But Mason looked personally offended by the word system. Old-school tough guys always prefer things they can actually fight. As the first bell rang, I walked inside with Mason trailing behind, both of us dreading the same reality. Sure, predicting scams proved my future memories could protect my friends, but those memories could not pack boxes, print shipping labels, or handle hundreds of customers. Miss Anderson intercepted us before we even sat down, asking why we looked like we just committed accounting fraud. Mason immediately went dead silent. Classic coward. Honestly, his cowardice was disappointing. I asked her for monitored library computer access instead. She raised an eyebrow, asking if it was for studying. Studying adjacent, I replied. Her gaze narrowed instantly. I quickly explained it was a totally legal shop, fully clean, with zero classroom distractions. Plus, Mason gets paid and will not miss any classes. Mason grumbled that I made it sound bad, but I was just keeping it professional. During break, Miss Anderson marched us straight to the school office. She made me show her our dashboard, products, and clients. I mean, can you imagine showing your strict teacher your secret business? Our teacher went from typical concern to sheer disbelief, clearly regretting that high schoolers were allowed to access the internet. Finally, she just pinched the bridge of her nose. Next, she asked if this was really my business. I nodded, confirming we sold exactly what was listed, mostly comfortable lifestyle apparel. There are no explicit tags, zero school mentions, and absolute professionalism, I promised. And Mason handles customer inquiries while being supervised. Mason frowned, muttering that he was sitting right there. That is why I said, supervised. I grinned. Miss Anderson stared him down until he folded. She is incredibly efficient. Next, she summoned Mr. Thompson from the science department. He walked in carrying a massive stack of papers, looking like a man who considered happiness an optional elective. He listened for about 30 seconds, glanced over the orders, and told me my science scores had better not drop while I was busy running an online shop. I joked that I loved the support, but he quickly turned to Mason, warning him that his physics grades were already worse than my inventory tracking. Mason whined that it felt personal, but Thompson called it reality. Miss Anderson folded her arms, presenting a bargain. We got library computer access after lunch in school. Absolutely no business text during class, and Mason only works after finishing his homework. I had to tutor him, with Mr. Thompson checking our progress twice a week. If grades slipped, this deal was dead. Mason gasped at the word grades, but she reminded him he was a senior. He was a student, not a warehouse ghost. So that was our little victory. We secured library access, but the catch was adopting a helper who came with mandatory homework. Chloe heard the news before lunch. Gossip at Brookfield High honestly spread faster than a highly contagious flu. She ended up blocking the library entrance with Grace Foster, staring right at Mason as he struggled with a physics worksheet and a towering pile of shipping invoices. Chloe asked Cooper if he was studying. Mason did not look up, just muttering a flat no. Yet Mr. Thompson's worksheet sat right under his elbow with 3 problems done. Chloe leaned closer. She said the paper told a different story. Grace whispered to Emma that it was the strangest romance side effect ever. Emma's face went pretty pink. It is not because of me, Emma insisted. I looked up. Miss Blake, give yourself credit. Your seating chart genius pretty much wiped out local delinquency. Mason hurled an eraser right at my head. Missed. Best bud, I sighed. Your terrible aim totally reflects your physics grades. Right then, Mr. Thompson stepped inside. He grabbed the eraser and dove back into his worksheet, like a man choosing survival. The beautiful system worked for exactly 6 hours. Then, the brutal inventory quote arrived. I expected ugly. I prepared for it. I had even cleared out emotional space for ugly to sit right down and introduce itself. But get this, those final numbers made my throat close up. The supplier would only hold stock for 1 day before giving the holiday batch away, meaning refunds would eat all profit. Our customers would vanish, and Mason's hard work would just be a sad lesson in how hope gets ruined by a guy with decent grades but zero cash. I exhausted every honest option first. Ryan had connections, not actual cash. Asking Mason for money felt like a literal moral crime with a shipping label on it. My savings and the deposits covered only a tiny fraction. Buying slower was safe, but it would completely kill this massive opportunity. By evening, my ledger looked like a math problem engineered by a straight-up villain. Emma sat right across from me, her shiny bracelet resting quietly against her sleeve. Luckily, Grace had dragged Chloe away before she could offer business advice with zero money and way too much confidence. Mason was grumbling in the corner while replying to customer messages, acting like being polite personally insulted his ancestors. Emma looked at the ledger, asking softly how much was missing. Enough, Logan. I absolutely hated when she used my name like punctuation because it worked so well. I turned the notebook, and she read the brutal number. Her eyes widened, but she did not flinch, asking if the store could repay it. If orders hold, yes. If timing goes wrong, no. If a supplier delays, no. If I panic and make stupid promises, definitely no. She insisted I was not making stupid promises. Honestly, I am one cheesy inspirational video away from becoming the exact kind of guy I absolutely despise. Emma went quiet. My words landed a bit too hard. I shut the ledger and apologized, but she softly told me to say it, so I did. I hate when people use trust as a ladder. Madison did it. Westbridge High did too. Dean Hayes used authority. I cannot just take your money and call it a romance. I refuse to do that. Emma reached inside her bag and pulled out a small bank envelope, explaining those were her personal savings. She told me to listen first. I shut my mouth, which actually hurt more than I expected. She explained she saved this money from her allowance and piano gigs. It was hers to use. She offered to lend it with a clear record. I pointed out it was not enough. She knew. Then she pulled out a card, and the library went dead silent. Real money did not need to flash or sparkle. It just sat there, heavy and calm, like a serious adult walking into a playroom full of children. Her father gave her that card for expenses. The limit? Hold on, you are not ready for this. $300,000. It did not feel like money, it felt like a cliff. Mason stopped typing in the corner. I kept my gaze locked on Emma. Looking away right then would have turned this whole moment into a cold transaction. This trust was heavy enough to crush both of us if I held it wrong. No, I said. Emma's fingers tightened, telling me I had not even heard her condition. Your condition cannot make this a small deal, I countered. She said she did not want it small. That shut me up. Emma looked scared, but incredibly steady underneath it all. You repaid the gate money, she reminded me. You logged the debt. You even confessed about the store when Chloe forced the truth out into the open. Offering Mason a real job instead of pity, you reported the scam before others lost everything. I am not lending this because you smiled at me, she said, her voice shaking slightly. She was lending it because she trusted how I acted when money got dangerous. That was somehow far worse than any romantic confession. A confession only asked me to feel something. This demanded I become someone worthy of her trust. Slowly, I pushed the card back toward her. If we do this, we need a formal ledger, a written agreement, a capped amount, strict records of every transfer, supplier invoices, a clear repayment plan, and your payout coming first. I will not hide behind you if your father asks questions. He gets full access to the records, even if he thinks I am using you. Her eyes flickered, showing that fear was already real. Then we keep proof that you did not, she insisted. The light humor stayed completely dead. I opened a new ledger page, documenting the date, amount, terms, and every single condition in ultra-clear handwriting meant to survive her angry father. Emma watched closely, and Mason only stepped in to witness the inventory count. Mason looked completely serious. No jokes, no tough front. He asked Emma if she was sure, and she nodded quietly. He signed his witness line in messy handwriting that looked like it fought a printer and lost. Then he immediately processed orders like his family depended on this store staying alive because they did. The big supplier payment went through that night, and the store successfully cleared the bottleneck. Yet, nobody cheered. When I ranked first in Chinese, everyone threw a fit. When the open class video dropped, people chanted my name. But when this store survived, the library stayed dead silent. The only sounds were quiet typing, printing, Emma's writing, and Mason carefully muttering customer names so he wouldn't misspell a single one. Hope could be pretty loud, but real responsibility was usually just boring paperwork. Over the next 2 days, Mason changed in a way that totally annoyed anyone expecting him to fail. He showed up at the library during every single break. He printed labels, answered customer chats, and finished his class assignments before touching anything else. When curious classmates asked if he got detention, he just muttered paid work and kept moving. Watching him through the window, Chloe noted it was pretty weird. Real growth usually is, I replied. She rolled her eyes, telling me not to sound noble because it was still Mason. Inside the room, Mason struggled with a physics problem, erased half of it, and tried again. Chloe's tough expression shifted briefly before she quickly masked it. Grace whispered to Emma that the boy looked seriously focused. He is, Emma replied without a hint of teasing. By day 3, Mr. Thompson checked Mason's worksheet and let out a small, satisfied grunt. Mason froze. Wrong. No, slightly less wrong. He looked over at me. Was Mr. Thompson actually praising us? This is practically a victory parade. Then Mr. Thompson handed me my worksheet. Miller, your own science corrections are totally incomplete. Yep, that parade just ran me over. But hey, Miss Anderson extended our library schedule since nobody's grades crashed. We handled our customers outside of class hours, and Mason finally stopped treating his school homework like some rival street gang. That really should have wrapped up the chapter of my life called Business Stress with Perks. But then, Ryan pinged me from Westbridge High. Ryan Brooks messaged that parents are still furious about Rockwell, and Morrison keeps lying to everyone that I transferred voluntarily. Ryan added that Dean Hayes wants school records to clarify some misunderstandings. I stared at those words, records and misunderstandings. Those exact polite excuses had come through my mother in the past. Now they were marching right to my door. Before I could reply to Ryan, my phone buzzed with Mom calling, and I answered immediately. Logan, she whispered in a very low voice. Dean Hayes and Mr. Morrison are downstairs right now. Overhead, the library lights buzzed as Emma's card record sat open in my ledger. Mason packed order slips while Emma sat beside me, trusting and quiet. Her dad had 300,000 reasons to hate me if I failed her. Westbridge High was showing up at my front door with my permanent file. You can see I had way too much on the line to actually enjoy this. Before I even got back home, furious parents had trapped Mr. Morrison in the hallway like some exhibit of a guilty teacher. Ryan was texting me those crazy photos while I was riding in the cab. Parents packed the hallway shoulder to shoulder with cameras raised and red faces. Mr. Morrison stood by the door, trying to hold his fake teacher smile. That smile was stretched so thin it looked like plastic wrap. Ryan messaged me that some parent demanded to know why I helped Brookfield families, while Westbridge just told everyone to relax. Ryan's text said that Morrison claimed I already transferred, and the school had absolutely no control over my reckless behavior. Ryan sent another message saying a parent asked who forced me to leave. That shut them up instantly. For once, their favorite line of defense fell flat. Claiming Logan Miller is someone else's problem did not work when an angry mob followed them right back inside. And then Ryan dropped one final update. Ryan messaged that Dean Hayes just walked out and told me to guess where. Looking out the cab window at my apartment gate, I muttered that I had a pretty good idea. Dean Hayes called it a casual visit. Adults always love soft, polite phrasing where threats become guidance, panic is labeled concern, and a reputation cover-up arrives wearing shoe covers. As I opened the door, Mom was standing near the kitchen, looking pretty tense but holding her ground. Dad sat on the couch with his work jacket still zipped up. Sitting right across from him were Dean Hayes and Mr. Morrison, clutching manila folders that looked like they had been sharpened into deadly weapons on the walkover. Dean Hayes turned to me first. Logan, he said smoothly, we came to clear up some misunderstandings. I took off my shoes slowly, thinking this is going to be interesting. Last time Westbridge clarified something, I ended up losing my entire school. Morrison's lips thinned into a tight line, and Dad looked at me, telling me to sit down first. That was Dad's classic way of telling me not to throw any bombs until we found where the exits were. I sat next to him, and before Dean Hayes opened his file, I secretly texted Ryan. I told him to stay alert and resend those crazy parent office photos if I asked. Ryan messaged back that he literally lives for unpaid labor, so I kept our chat open. There was no need for secretly recording this or creating legal drama. My parents were my witnesses, Ryan backed up the evidence, and Dean Hayes placed his file on our table. He claimed the recent scam incident made parents ask some emotional questions, completely misunderstanding why I actually transferred out of their school. When they asked why I was not there to warn them, Hayes claimed he told them I had already chosen Brookfield. Hearing that, my mother folded her hands in front of her. Did he actually choose? She asked. Or was he threatened that his future was over unless he withdrew immediately? The room fell completely silent as I looked at Mom, who kept staring down Dean Hayes. Seeing my mom stand her ground like this is incredibly satisfying. She is done feeling ashamed, armed with facts, and absolutely refusing to back down for these guys. Dean Hayes kept a perfectly straight face, saying strict talks can sound severe when emotions run high, but that is when Dad leaned forward. Then why did you only show up after the parents lost their minds? Dad had found the open window and jumped right through. Morrison tried to salvage things, claiming they care about my future. He said they do not want administrative language to unfairly ruin my records. Well, that is a new concept, I countered. Morrison quickly dropped back into his fake teacher voice. He warned me that schools need to save face too. Oh, I understand saving face, I replied, especially since Westbridge deleted their praise the moment they realized I created Exit Pass. Then someone started rumors that I stole the code, before you tried using Madison and Ryan to intimidate me into stopping completely. After that, you guys ignored a massive scam warning because painting me as jealous was easier. Morrison flinched at Ryan's name, but I kept the $60 out of it for now. You do not flash every weapon during the first course. Dean Hayes tapped his folder, claiming this is exactly why they want a quiet, sensible resolution. He suggested if they post a notice saying my transfer was entirely standard and that both schools are cooperating nicely, the angry parents will finally back off. They offered to let me focus on the upcoming SATs while scrubbing my records clean. In reality, they did not come to boss me around, they were desperately begging me to make them look innocent. I almost smiled, but then I looked at my mother sitting across from the exact institution that once made her bow her head in shame. That smile died instantly. No, I told them, as the dean's eyes instantly narrowed. A vague statement about cooperation is not going to cut it, nor will pretending both schools handled this situation perfectly. Morrison's voice sharpened as he asked what I actually wanted. Honestly, that sentence was worth framing. Westbridge was finally asking me for my terms. I pulled out my phone and unlocked the private folder containing all my screenshots. Madison's very first messages, and the deleted post praising my work. Then Brookfield's repost, the video, and Ryan's scam warnings. I slid my phone onto the table screen up, letting my parents see every single piece of evidence as I listed them off. A public correction, I demanded. Westbridge must state that I did not copy Exit Pass, admit their deletion caused the issue, and completely wipe any mention of the Tyler incident from my permanent records. As Dean Hayes went totally silent, I kept speaking. Tyler Hayes' role needs to be addressed properly, not hidden behind student drama, and not washed clean just because he's your son. My father glared at Dean Hayes, whose jaw instantly tightened. Careful, he warned. But I was being careful, that's exactly why I was naming names in my own living room instead of posting them online. My mother gasped. But she didn't try to stop me. And Mr. Morrison owes me an apology, I added. Morrison let out a dry laugh. For what exactly? He asked. For ignoring facts while demanding my self-reflection? For letting Madison's tears matter more than my proof? Or for trying to reclaim my novel's value after Westbridge high-tossed aside the student who actually wrote it? Total silence filled the room. Then my father spoke up. Those demands sound reasonable. Mr. Morrison stared at him like he had just met a grown-up, even more dangerous version of Logan. Dean Hayes slammed the folder shut, claiming I was asking Westbridge High to embarrass itself. No, I replied. Your school already did that, I am just asking for a receipt. They came to our home, laid my file on the table, and realized the kid they threw away now held all the cards. I didn't need to shout, beg, or slam doors to make them listen. Dean Hayes refused. Don't you just love how guys like him treat accountability like a highly contagious disease? But he left looking very different than when he walked in. Before standing, he warned that if I turned school honor into personal revenge, the school board wouldn't tolerate it forever. Then I guess Westbridge High should stop giving me so much material, I shot back. My mom let out a tiny noise, either a cough or her trying desperately not to laugh. Dad just stared at the floor, and the Westbridge High staff pretended not to hear a thing. Once they finally left, our apartment went completely silent. My mother tapped my phone screen, looking at Madison's old message. You kept everything, she noted softly. I just smiled. I learned from the professionals, I said. She looked right at me. Are you tired? That question hit deep. A little, I admitted, as Dad picked up the folder Dean Hayes had forgotten and stacked it back up neatly. Good, Dad said. Tired people still need to eat, so we quietly ate noodles while Westbridge High scrambled to figure out how much truth they could actually survive. Next morning, Madison was waiting by the bus stop. I knew instantly she wasn't here to apologize. Apologies require facing the facts. Madison only ever faced the angles. She put on that gentle face, the one that used to make me feel special, but now just made me look around for traps. Logan, she pleaded, can we please talk? Nearby students slowed down. Westbridge High gossip had legs, but Brookfield High gossip had wings, and this bus stop in between was basically a giant public stage. You are talking, I said. Her fingers tightened on her bag strap, complaining her parents were furious about the scam and that everyone was upset. I should have double-checked the official number, she muttered. I know that now. Then start with that, I told her. She wanted warmth, but mine was locked away at home. I wanted to invite you to dinner, she said. My family is hosting a small Christmas dinner so we can explain things, like before. There she goes again with that phrase. That phrase had survived countless disasters and learned absolutely nothing. Madison, I said, before is exactly the problem. Her eyes welled up, but she held back her tears. She was putting on a show, getting ready to sob. Do you hate me that much? She asked. No, I said. That shocked her more than anger. I just don't belong to your emergencies anymore. The bus pulled up, and the students near the doors went dead silent. I am sorry, she whispered. Then keep being sorry when nobody is watching, I replied, and stepped inside. Behind me, her stunned silence did what her fake tears never could. It finally told the truth. That very afternoon, Westbridge High posted their official public statement. It was a masterpiece of corporate speak that said absolutely nothing. They claimed to value student growth, regretted online misunderstandings, and promised to step up their anti-fraud education. Tyler wasn't named. Morrison wasn't named. Even my deleted exit pass praise got completely ignored. My academic file was buried under a cover-up so thick it deserved a warning. I read the garbage post once, then logged right into exit pass. My new chapter was a metaphor about a school painting over a wall crack while rain poured through the ceiling. I named no names to keep things legally safe, showing a familiar teacher ordering a kid to mop faster so guests wouldn't see the leak. Mr. Whitman reviewed it and cut just one line. That line is just a bit too close to a lawsuit, he warned, calling it a survival detail. He approved the rest, and Brookfield High students understood the message instantly. Within an hour, Westbridge High whined that I was using writing to damage their honor, which was hilarious, considering they had tried to steal my writing after deleting my name, but the school board noticed too. After lunch, Miss Anderson brought the big news to class: the upcoming talent showcase had been officially added to the review visit list. Board leaders would be there, and Westbridge High had been invited to send representatives too. The classroom erupted. Chloe whipped around to tell me I was performing. Grace whispered that I was being academically persecuted, then asked if Emma was playing piano. Emma gripped her pen. I looked at Miss Anderson, asking what I was supposed to do. Mr. Whitman signed you up for a quick literature reading, she replied. I groaned, but she wasn't done. The arts rep apparently saw me doing card tricks for Ryan last week, so I was also booked for a magic show. Every single kid turned to stare at me. I gaped at her, protesting that those tricks were a private crime. Then stop committing crimes in public. She deadpanned. Fine magic, literature, school board leaders, and my old enemies all in one room. Leave it to my life to turn revenge into a literal variety show. For 6 hours, there was hope, but here's the twist: Tyler Hayes just got weaponized for his own downfall. A massive rumor hit the chats, spreading through a student who clearly loved chaos more than sleep. Word was that Logan Miller was using Emma Blake for money and running some kind of shady, shameful store. Supposedly, Logan had dumped Madison for a richer girl. Madison didn't post it herself, she was too smart for that. But Ryan sent me the screenshots showing Tyler pushed the first ugly draft. Brianna amplified the lie, and Madison slid in later with fake concern, saying she hoped I hadn't become someone who used others. Classic Madison: stab your back with someone else's hand, then hand out bandages to the audience. I looked across the library at Emma. She hadn't seen the rumors yet. Our accounting ledger sat between us, clean, honest, and suddenly so vulnerable. My phone buzzed again with a text from Ryan Brooks saying there was bad news. Someone had forwarded the rumors directly to a parent group chat. Right then, Emma's phone buzzed on the table. She looked down, and her face went completely pale. It's my dad, she whispered. The trap was sprung, and they found the money trail. The rumor claimed I stole Emma Blake's family savings to sell lingerie online. Honestly, it was almost an impressive lie, taking two real facts and completely twisting them. First, Emma lent me money. Second, Willow Lace actually existed. But Tyler and Madison twisted those facts into a massive lie. They wrapped it in a dirty bow to make me look like the trash I have spent 2 lifetimes hating. The next afternoon, Emma's father showed up at Brookfield High. He didn't storm in screaming, which made it worse. Angry men make noise. Serious men sign in, wait in the lobby, and let the heavy silence do the talking. Miss Anderson tracked me down near the library. "Logan," she said, and her voice had absolutely zero room for jokes. "Emma's father is here." Emma stood right beside her, pale but holding her ground. She wore my bracelet, her hands squeezed so tightly her knuckles turned white. I shut down the willow lace dashboard on the computer. Mason looked up, sensing trouble, and stood up immediately. "Stay," I told him. Mason hesitated, offering to testify about the store. I told him I might need him later, but right now, too many boys facing an overprotective father would just look terrible. He sat back down, frustrated but obedient. Miss Anderson guided us to a small meeting room near the office. The moment we walked in, Emma's father stood up. He wore a dark coat and a basic watch, showing zero visible anger. That meant he brought serious ammunition. "Logan Miller," he said. "Mr. Blake," I replied. Saying his name felt like stepping onto thin ice. In my head, he had just been Emma's dad. In person, he was Mr. Blake, a man who brought his own gravity. He looked at Emma, telling her to sit. She did. I stood there until he gestured to me. "Sit." I sat right across from him. You can practically feel the tension in the room. Miss Anderson stands by the door, refusing to leave Emma alone, while Mr. Blake quietly slides a bank statement onto the table. Paper did enough damage by itself. His daughter's card was used to pay a supplier. "A massive payment," he noted. He continued, saying rumors claimed I pressured her to fund an online shop selling inappropriate products. That word, inappropriate, cut cleanly and coldly. No more jokes. "The shop is legal, and our listings are completely clean, just comfort wear, discreet shipping. But yes, I admitted to taking Emma's money for inventory." Her father stared, demanding to know why. I could have answered 100 bad ways. Because the market was hot. Because my memories from a past life told me the timing was perfect. Because suppliers were moving fast. All true, but useless without the real reason. "Because I was short," I said. "Because she offered." I thought my detailed ledger made the risk acceptable. And frankly, I should have asked you before taking her card. Emma glanced at me, but her father didn't soften. He demanded to see proof. I opened my folder, showing quotes, invoices, and bank transfers. The order history, customer privacy protected, Mason's wage records, a repayment plan, and Emma's savings tracked separately. Card usage was strictly capped, leaving the $300,000 limit mostly untouched. I built this ledger to survive an angry father. Now, it had to do exactly that. Mr. Blake analyzed every single page. He fired off practical questions about orders, refund rates, our suppliers, and shipping delays. He asked what was repaid, what was left, and what happens if sales tank. I answered everything with cold hard numbers, leaving out my cheat code past life confidence. Emma sat next to me, breathing carefully. Finally, her father looked up, noting I was good with records. I said I learned from people who were terrible with facts. Miss Anderson shot me a look. "Right. No more jokes." I locked my mouth shut as Mr. Blake turned to Emma, asking if I pressured her. Emma squeezed her bracelet. "No," her dad asked if I demanded the card. "No," she offered. When he asked why, the room went dead silent. Emma could have hidden behind me here. I wanted to protect her, to spare her from having to defend her own trust like a criminal, but she didn't hide. She looked at him and said she trusted me. Her voice was incredibly soft, but her words were solid. Her father stared, but she pushed on, reminding him I repaid the gate money exactly when promised, logging every debt. She explained I told her about the shop even when it was embarrassing. I helped Mason make a living, and warned everyone about Rockwell even when Madison laughed in my face. Honestly, hearing her say that just hits different. She tells her father that when everyone else laughed at her, I was the one who stood by her side. I had backed her up before, bought her drinks, forced apologies, and written business ledgers like some terrified accountant with past life trauma. But hearing her say it out loud made the whole weight heavier. Mr. Blake leaned back, saying trust doesn't erase risk. Emma quietly replied she knew. He told her she should have called him, and she agreed. He looked at me, saying I should have refused her card. Yes. My pride hated saying it, but honesty demanded it. Mr. Blake gathered my papers and pushed them back. "Pay it by this date," he demanded. I promised I would. He demanded weekly updates for both of them. Yes. He ordered me never to take another dollar from Emma without his permission. Agreed. Finally, he warned me that if the rumors spread, I better not let his daughter face them alone. That wasn't business, it was personal. I looked at Emma and promised I wouldn't. He made it clear he wasn't blessing the business. I wasn't expecting a ribbon anyway. Emma let out a tiny breath, and her father stared at me in silence. Reluctantly, he agreed to keep the performance. Emma would play at the showcase. She finally relaxed. Her dad didn't squash us. Instead, he gave us a deadline, a witness, and a real chance. I'd take that over fake approval any day. Soon, showcase prep consumed our entire week. Brookfield High practically had stage fright. Mr. Whitman scrambled to revise the literature list, while Miss Anderson guarded our rehearsal schedules like a strict border guard. The arts committee plastered schedules everywhere. Emma practiced piano relentlessly, playing so beautifully that even the gossiping kids started whispering in respect outside her door. My job? A quick magic show right before the main presentation. Apparently, the only legal way to make our rival high school disappear was clean misdirection and lighting. My teacher didn't laugh, warning me not to actually vaporize anyone. Just make the audience look where you want them to. Honestly, that was better advice than he realized. My act was simple: 3 cards, 1 envelope, and 1 perfect reveal. I wasn't trying to pull off a magic trick. I was just hiding my cards until the final curtain call. Right on cue, Ryan sent those old screenshots again. They were high-definition receipts. Madison's first text, her friend request, the West Burbridge High group mocking my warning, and Brianna accusing me of being jealous. Plus Tyler's latest trash rumors. Ryan even threw in a voice note: "I've officially become your personal evidence delivery guy, so please rate me 5 stars. I texted back 4 stars. Your packaging is messy. Typical Ryan. But for once, Chloe didn't try to steal the spotlight for herself. She cornered Emma by the music room and straight up told her I heard what they're saying about the money. Emma just squeezed her sheet music, whispering, "I know." Chloe looked unusually soft, almost fragile. "I used to run my mouth way too fast," she admitted. Emma stayed quiet. Then Chloe offered to help stop it. "Your apology was messy, but it worked," Emma nodded. So Chloe did exactly that. She shut down 2 gossips before lunch, leaving a third utterly humiliated on the spot. Chloe's version of community service? Heavy eyeliner and sass. Meanwhile, Mason kept grinding between rehearsals. He'd become terrifyingly dependable, which honestly made us all suspicious. When Grace asked if he'd been replaced by an android, he simply shrugged paid work. He just kept taping up boxes. Honestly, you could feel the trap closing in. Tyler was waiting by the side entrance on rehearsal night. He brought along 2 goons from West Burbridge High, guys I knew from my own dark past. Madison stood right behind them, looking incredibly tense and anxious. She stayed quiet. She always let others do the dirty work. Classic Madison. Mason and I spotted them first. Mason stopped next to me, balancing a mountain of props and orders. My life was basically a giant train wreck at this point. He whispered, "Should I call Miss Anderson? Or should I just deck him?" I told him absolutely not. No way. But before we could argue, Chloe slid around the corner, her phone ready. "Are we recording?" I replied, "Only if they make a move." Tyler spotted us and sneered. "Hey, Miller, you busy spending Emma's cash?" Mason instantly tensed up. I kept my hands loose. "Tyler," I drawled, "still hiding behind your daddy's title, I see." His smug smile completely froze, and one of his guys snickered. That really ticked him off. "You think you're hot stuff just because some wealthy girl is sponsoring you?" Tyler snarled. "Madison told me you always need a girl." Madison avoided my eyes, wrapping herself in her usual cowardice. "I louder," said Madison talks big when someone else is taking the fall. Her eyes snapped up. "Say that again?" Tyler growled. I didn't budge. I repeated it word for word. His hand flew up. He wanted me to flinch. He desperately needed a scene so Dean Hayes could claim Logan Miller is still a violent thug. The old me would have gladly handed him exactly what he wanted. I looked past his shoulder. "Security camera above you?" I said. "Chloe's phone is filming on your left, and Mason is recording on your right. And Miss Anderson is walking down the hall right now because Mason finally learned to text the faculty instead of getting into fistfights." Tyler whipped around. Miss Anderson was indeed standing there, with a heavy-duty security guard. Mason flashed his phone with a deadpan expression. "Good citizens always report trouble." It worked. Tyler reluctantly dropped his hand. The guard moved in, asking if there was a problem. I smirked. No, he was just leaving. Tyler absolutely glared at us. For the first time ever, he couldn't play the innocent victim after starting a fight. Tyler Hayes wanted to break me today, but instead, he walked away captured on video. Madison lingered behind. Tears welled up, but her sweet victim routine was completely falling apart. "You really despise me, don't you?" she whispered. "No," I replied. "I just finally stopped begging for your approval." Her jaw clenched. She spat back. "Everyone will believe you are just using Emma. First me, and now her." Suddenly, Ryan's voice blasted through Mason's speakerphone. My delivery service just upgraded to live commentary. Ryan laughed. That is absolutely hilarious. I have the text where you begged Logan to rescue you. Madison froze, rigid. Ryan continued, I also have the friend request. Not to mention the chats where Brianna called him jealous before your fake admissions scam blew up. Oh, and your little invite at the bus stop was also recorded. I'm not saying I'm a pro, but you should pay me like one. Ryan laughed. Chloe muttered that Ryan is scary. And look at Madison now completely speechless. She had no victim excuses left. Save your speech for the stage, I said. You claimed I'd embarrass you? No, you did that yourself. I am just providing subtitles. Miss Anderson warned me in her strict teacher voice. My bad, I muttered. She shook her head accurate, but still too much. Madison scurried off with Tyler and his goons, but the damage was done. We had cold, hard proof that Tyler was still trying to set me up. That very night, all the final pieces fell right into place. The literature order got approved. Emma rehearsed her piano solo, her hands completely steady by the second page. Mason sent over photos of the completed order batches, along with his finished physics homework. Apparently, his character development now comes with digital receipts. Chloe forwarded a detailed list tracking exactly who spread Tyler's rumors and who actually shut them down. Ryan sent organized screenshot folders, making me wonder if he had actually matured. Then the director's office sent tomorrow's guest list full of board members and teachers, staff from Brookfield and West Burbridge High, parent observers, Emma's father, Tyler, Madison, and Mr. Morrison and Dean Hayes, everyone who needed the old Logan Miller to fail. They would all be sitting right here. The next afternoon, I stood backstage holding 3 cards, an envelope in my pocket, and every receipt in place. Emma stood by the piano bench, pale but ready. Mason and Chloe stood in the aisle, totally pretending they weren't securing the perfect recording angles. Ryan managed to sneak in with the parents, sending one last text. If you mess this up, I am charging overtime, Ryan's message read. I glanced at the front row. Dean Hayes sat right next to Mr. Morrison. Tyler sat there looking incredibly smug and entitled. Madison had her hands folded, wearing her sweet victim face, waiting to play the room. The stage manager signaled, and the lights lit up the curtains. The big showcase was finally starting, and everyone wanting to see me crash had a front row seat. I could feel the tension behind the curtain. Tyler wanted a fight, Madison wanted pity, and Mr. Morrison wanted me to fail. Everyone was waiting for me to make a single mistake they could record, but Emma stood ready, while Mason, Chloe, and Ryan guarded the exits. This stage was actually safer than any office Westbridge High had ever put me in. I walked straight to the center, holding 3 cards in one hand and a sealed envelope in the other. Keeping my hands visible mattered more than the trick itself. I looked out and simply said good afternoon. I promised to keep this brief, educational, and completely safe for the school board's blood pressure. Miss Anderson closed her eyes, while Mr. Whitman looked like he wanted to jump in front of a bus. Sitting in the very front row, Director Marshall gave me a slight smile. That was all the permission I needed. I slowly raised the 3 cards. This is just a basic trick about focus, I explained to them. The cards held 3 simple words: rumor, face, and fact. People think magic hides things, but it actually does not. Real magic just forces you to focus on the wrong truth. I set rumor in the middle, face left, fact right, and made everyone watch the rumor. I flipped it, shifted it, let it slide right under my palm, and then made a very obvious, completely intentional mistake. You could feel the room shift the moment they thought they caught me. Honestly, we all love spotting an obvious blunder, and that is exactly what blinds us to the real secret. I opened the envelope to reveal the fact card. Rumor was still sitting on the table the whole time. The students clapped because they love free drama and quiet teachers. I took a small bow. That, I told them, is what we call misdirection. They show you a loud rumor or a sad, crying face, and while you stare, the actual truth quietly slips away. The applause died down. I turned my gaze to Mr. Morrison. I told everyone how my old homeroom teacher once gave me some classic advice. He claimed that setting aside the actual facts, my bad attitude was the real issue. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Ryan put his head down, clearly trying to hide his laughter. I had asked if ignoring facts could make me the emperor, but unfortunately, it does not. Sad, but that lesson stuck with me. Mr. Morrison practically crushed his paper program. I explained that Exit Pass is about students fighting for their future while adults choose which truths are convenient. The ending isn't about getting revenge. It is strictly about focus. So, what are you actually watching? Rumor? Face? Or the hard truth? Mr. Whitman looked slightly less suicidal, which felt like a massive win. I slowly picked up the envelope once more. Before we discuss the school, I want to clear up a nasty rumor targeting an innocent person. Emma looked up immediately. All the playful humor left the room. Emma Blake lent me funds for inventory for a perfectly legal online business. I took the money. That was entirely my own choice and my own responsibility. The rumors turned her into a laughingstock, a human wallet, and a cheap headline. But none of that is true. The room fell dead silent as Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Madison shot me a quick glance before looking down. Protecting privacy, I kept customer data hidden and projected a single ledger page, exactly as Mr. Blake had originally reviewed it. The document clearly showed the supplier invoices, the exact transfer amounts, and the official payment schedule. It proved Emma's savings were totally separate from her father's card records, capped strictly to cover that supplier gap. I explained that store revenue covers wages, refunds, shipping, and debt repayment before I ever see any profit. Mason Cooper witnessed the inventory, and Mr. Blake verified everything. He did not smile, and I respected that. A happy, protective father is honestly way more terrifying. He stood up and confirmed he had reviewed the records. Declaring his daughter was not tricked and the debt was fully documented, he sat back down, instantly crushing all the school gossip. Emma gripped her music sheets tighter, but her shoulders finally straightened. I told them those are the facts. If you still want to spread lies, just admit you prefer rumors. Chloe glanced over at the Brookfield crowd. Suddenly, several kids found their own shoes incredibly interesting. But then, Madison stood up. If attention was a stage, Madison Cole believed she owned the spotlight. Watch her start playing the victim, voice trembling as she asks why I am doing this. She accuses me of humiliating people who cared about me. She is trying to use her innocent act again, so I ask her directly, who actually cared about me? Insisting she truly cared, she argued that I was the one who changed just to punish her. Nearby, Tyler turned his head, watching me like he was praying I would give him a physical excuse to fight. I kept my hands flat on the table. I asked her point blank if she sent me a message begging for help the day Tyler cornered her in class. Her mouth fell open, but absolutely nothing came out. I gave a quick nod to the projector, and the first screenshot flashed on screen with the private numbers blocked. There was her timestamp, my reply, and the exact context that had forced me to confront Tyler back then, nearly ruining my entire life. I told them this came directly from my phone. My mother saw it. And Mr. Morrison did too. Mrs. Miller sat calmly in the parent row with her hands folded. She did not stand up because she did not need to. She just stared at Madison with the absolute calm of a mother who was completely done wasting tears on her. Madison whispered that she was just scared. I told her that part might be true, but back in the office, she told everyone I had followed her completely on my own. Her lips trembled as she mumbled she did not know it would get so serious. That was her very first crack. It was not a real apology, but everyone in the room heard the shape of her lie. They all heard it. Director Marshall quickly scribbled a note as I clicked the screen. Up came her friend requests, bus stop dinner invites, and the text logs Ryan had perfectly organized like a guy who finally found a job that paid in absolute chaos. After my transfer and the exit pass repost, she kept trying to contact me. Even after the board video dropped, she tried to reach out again. When the scam warnings came true, she tried again. And last night, she texted that people would believe I used Emma because I always need a savior. Madison's face drained of all color. Over in the parent section, Ryan casually raised his hand like a student asking to go to the restroom. Director Marshall asked if he had something relevant. Standing up, Ryan confirmed he sent the screenshot folder, adding he was in Westbridge High homeroom 204. Ryan reveals he also got messages from Mr. Morrison, begging him to convince Logan to let Westbridge High bury the novel issue quietly. Morrison stands up halfway, stammering that it is not an accurate description. Ryan just blinks, telling his teacher that he literally sent him $60. The entire auditorium collectively chokes on their expensive education. He adds that he still has the transfer record for evidence, maybe some guilt, but mostly evidence. Miss Anderson rubs the bridge of her nose. Honestly, I love loyal people. Especially loyal ones who keep screenshots and have terrible spending ethics. Director Marshall tells Mr. Morrison to sit down for now. The teacher slumps into his seat, looking way smaller than in my old classroom. Madison just stares at Ryan and then at me. Her tears are real now, but crying does not make her innocent. She whimpers that I promised I liked her. The old me would have bled over those words. The new me just feels tired. I admit I did, but that was my mistake. Her mistake was thinking my feelings were a public resource. No one claps. Good. Tyler slams his chair back, shouting that it is enough, and I am only blaming her because she rejected me. The security guard nearby instantly straightens up. Mason shifts, ready to move, but stays still. Chloe raises her phone to record. I glance at Tyler's clenched fists, then look down at my own open hands. I call out Tyler Hayes, pointing out how hard he is trying to make this about whether I will hit him. Because you want to, Tyler snaps. Probably, I reply. That absolute honesty hits harder than any fake heroic denial. I let the room stew in silence for a second, wanting to swing and choosing not to are completely different things. Next up, the side entrance footage plays. Chloe's angle is shaky but clear, showing Tyler stepping close and raising his hand. Then we see Mason's phone recording. Miss Anderson arrives, the guard steps in, and Tyler backs off. Then comes Mason's angle. Not as pretty, but way more useful. Mason filmed this like a crime investigator, not a content creator. His thumb is totally off the lens. Look at Tyler's face right here, he knows he is completely done. Dean Hayes stands up, claiming this is just a private student squabble being blown out of proportion. Director Marshall ignores me entirely and glares straight at the dean. He says, Dean Hayes, Tyler is your son, right? The dean's jaw tightens as he confirms it. And you handled Logan's original discipline case back at Westbridge High. Dean Hayes stays completely silent, which is probably his smartest move today. Mrs. Miller finally stands up, her voice incredibly steady as she speaks. She reveals Dean Hayes gave us a choice. Logan writes a self-reflection or leaves Westbridge High. Tyler's role was totally ignored, while my son took all the blame. My dad stands right beside her, confirming we were there and we heard it all. Dean Hayes' face darkens, muttering that parents get emotional. Director Marshall slams his pen down. He snaps back that deans get emotional too. The entire front row freezes. That line lands worse than a scream, calling out the elephant in the room that everyone wanted to ignore. Dean Hayes slowly sinks back into his seat. Tyler looks desperately at his dad for rescue, but for once, no help is coming. I click the clicker again. The next slide is not about Tyler, it is the timeline. An education account praises the exit pass, and Westbridge High reposts it. Westbridge High deletes the post after realizing Logan Miller wrote it. Suddenly, their group chats claim it is copied work, and Mr. Morrison begs Ryan and Madison to make Logan settle quietly. Then, Brookfield High's open class publicly confirms the real author. In response, Westbridge High put out a completely vague statement that named no one and corrected absolutely nothing. Clean, simple, and absolutely lethal. Mr. Morrison claimed he was just protecting students, while Dean Hayes called this whole mess discipline. Westbridge High's public statement claimed they respected normal student transfers. But those are just pretty lies. The cold truth is way simpler. They wanted my confession when I was a problem, but they wanted my novel the second I became useful. Mr. Morrison's voice cracks, stammering that he was just keeping order. He says senior year cannot become a theater for personal drama. I look at him and call him teacher, and for once, I say it without a single drop of sarcasm. I point out he made it theater the second he forced a student to apologize, even after seeing the exact messages proving why he stepped up. He flinches hard. It became theater when Westbridge High deleted their praise instead of admitting the author transferred. It became theater when you dismissed Ryan's warning as jealousy, while Brookfield High protected families way faster than Westbridge High ever did. I am just choosing better lighting, Ryan whispers loudly stagecraft. Someone in the back laughs and quickly shuts up. Director Marshall looks toward the Westbridge High representatives, stating cold that the review team will record all of this. Before this visit ends, Westbridge High must submit a written correction. He glares at them, adding that it will cover Logan's transfer, the deleted pass, and Tyler's obvious conflict of interest. Dean Hayes is officially banned from participating in any review involving his son or Logan Miller. And Mr. Morrison's senior teacher recommendation is put on hold until the investigation is fully complete. Those brutal words land one by one. Written correction, transfer record, deletion, conflict of interest, and recommendation frozen. The room gets cold, official language instead of wild fireworks, and somehow, that feels so much worse. The right words finally crush the right people's toes. Tyler stands up again, yelling that they cannot do this over a stupid performance. The security guard immediately moves closer. Director Marshall calmly tells him to sit down. Tyler looks to his dad, but the dean does not move. Tyler sits. That is when I knew the old rules were broken. Madison cried, Morrison turned pale, and Marshall spoke. But the real break is right here, Tyler looking for safety, only to find a cold, empty chair wearing his father's face. I should have enjoyed this victory more. Then I look at Emma, still standing quietly near the piano. She holds her sheet music tight against her chest, that silver bracelet catching the light. The room cleared my name, but the toxic rumors still hurt her. It dragged her life, her family, and her dignity into the public spotlight. You see, revenge only feels clean from a distance up close. It gets incredibly messy. I step away. I call out her name softly, telling her she does not have to say a single thing. For a second, I honestly think she will just nod and sit down. And that would have been more than fair since she already did so much, but instead, Emma walks right to the center of the stage. The entire room shifts. Even the kids who used to whisper about her glasses and quiet voice now realize they are watching a girl finally decide how bright she wants to shine. Emma stood right beside me, not behind me, a small detail that changed everything. She faced the crowd, announcing that she lent me money, her voice shaking slightly before steadying. She admitted being terrified of the rumors, her father's fury, and what everyone would think of her. The entire auditorium remained dead silent. The tension in the room was real. Emma briefly touched her bracelet, then dropped her hand, stating she chose to lend the money and that I recorded every single debt. She told them how I kept my promises, protected her, and helped Mason. She even mentioned how I warned everyone about Rockwell despite the ridicule from Westridge High. Watching from the crowd, her father's stern face held a hidden warmth. Emma looked directly at Madison, declaring she was no one's replacement. Madison gasped. Emma turned back. I am Emma Blake, Brookfield pianist, and this was my choice. She challenged them to use her real name if they wanted to laugh. Then, the silence broke. You will not believe who started clapping first. It was Chloe, bold, confident, and returning a favor. Mason immediately joined in, clapping awkwardly but incredibly loud. Ryan started clapping wildly from the back like he was trying to escape chores. Soon, the entire Brookfield High crowd followed. Parents and even biased teachers joined the applause. Emma let out a quiet breath. I stood nearby, refusing to steal her spotlight just yet. She earned this moment herself, and I was not about to ruin it. She walked over to the piano, ready to turn this transition into a statement. Sitting down, she adjusted the bench and touched the keys. Her first few notes were slightly tense, but her posture quickly relaxed. The melody bloomed from a soft whisper into a powerful surge, making everyone completely forget about the drama. I stood in the wings, just listening. In my past life, I only noticed her brilliance after I had already hit rock bottom. She was the quiet girl everyone ignored. But in this timeline, I found her first. I saw her nervous hands, her strict ledgers, and her unbelievable courage long before the rest of the world realized how incredible she truly was. I thought I was simply building a future. Somewhere along the way, I chose the present instead. As the music died down, Emma paused for a brief second before standing. Instantly, an even louder wave of applause erupted. Director Marshall and Dean Roberts stood up, clapping. Even her strict father gave exactly 3 stern claps. Emma caught my eye from across the stage. I gave her a genuine, gentle smile, one meant just for her. Soon, the school bureaucracy began moving, with administrators pretending they always cared about justice. By the next morning, Westbridge High officially cleared my name, admitting Exit Pass was entirely my original creation. My record was scrubbed of any mention of the Tyler Hayes incident, and the school promised to review their entire disciplinary process. The official statement tried to sound harmless, but parents easily read right through the polite lies. Tyler was placed under formal review, losing his athletic recommendation. Meanwhile, his father, Dean Hayes, was completely stripped of his disciplinary authority due to his obvious corruption. Mr. Morrison's promotion was instantly frozen. It is amazing how fast things change when the truth comes out. Ryan immediately sent me a screenshot of the school's public defeat. Ryan texted, calling me Emperor Logan, so I joked that I preferred Your Majesty. He immediately told me to pay him first. Some friendships only survive because distance keeps you from strangling them. Meanwhile, Madison tried playing the victim one last time. But with the evidence circulating, her classmates stopped falling for her fake tears, and Brianna quickly moved on to new gossip. Facing his own ruin, Tyler stopped protecting her. Madison messaged, asking if I was happy now, but I deleted it without replying. It was not about mercy. I was simply moving on from a drama I never should have been involved in. Our business survived the holiday rush with hard work and Mason politely serving customers like it was costing his soul. Every single dollar we made went straight to Emma's ledger. After paying off wages and refunds, we fully cleared her father's credit card right on schedule. I immediately sent him the final receipt. He briefly acknowledged it, telling us to keep submitting weekly records until the exams. Emma read the message and laughed, saying her father loved records. I joked that her family only showed affection through math audits and ledgers. It was a bit unfair, mostly because it was true. Mason easily beat his target score and acted like he pioneered modern studying. Chloe congratulated him while trying her best to act completely uninterested. Ryan did not transfer, but did something wilder. He actually studied for 40 straight minutes without taking a break. His teacher responded to his study proof with just 3 brutal words: more tomorrow again. Academic cruelty never truly changes. Brookfield High's official school rating skyrocketed, earning massive praise for student initiative, literature development, anti-fraud actions, and brilliant public performances. Of course, the report completely glossed over how they thoroughly dismantled Westbridge High's pathetic attempts to save face. Bureaucratic documents had zero soul, which is exactly why my web novel, Exit Pass, had to exist. I uploaded the final chapter without naming Madison, Tyler, or the corrupt staff. Instead, I wrote about how easily people sacrifice a volunteer. I described the tricks, the piano, and the stage where the truth finally won. The comments instantly blew up, so I turned them off after 10 minutes. The exams were approaching fast. Second chances are never free. They require actual effort. I kept doing the simple daily grind over and over. I packed orders, paid off my remaining debts, and walked Emma to her bus, teasing her whenever she looked a bit too serious. She teased me back when my supposedly low-key life ended up with me standing next to school board VIPs and news photos. One night, after self-study, we both strolled past our literature board. The old Exit Pass post was still pinned to the board, fading under a bunch of newer notices. Right next to it was her piano showcase picture. Under the bright stage lights, she sat tall and poised at the bench, finally done with hiding herself from the world. Emma stared at that photo for a long time before admitting she was pretty nervous up there, noting that I did not even hold her hand. I just looked over at her. I told her she was holding her own ground. She looked down, her bracelet shifting on her wrist, and then she quietly took my hand herself. It is crazy how things turn around. This quiet hallway, my bizarre second chance, her fingers slipping into mine, this place actually let me become someone new. The first time Tyler Hayes humiliated Madison Cole, I destroyed my own life trying to play the hero. Not this time. My hands stayed in my pockets, refusing to save the girl who used me as a human shield. And somehow, with the truth finally out, Emma by my side, and my entire future ahead of me, I saved the only life that ever truly mattered, mine.